Don't believe this. It's definitely fabricated. How could my brother possibly be interested in that kind of woman? Look at this picture. It's clearly a matter of angles. When Qin Yao studied the photos and titles, her heart instinctively tightening for a moment. Any woman would find it difficult to remain unaffected upon seeing her husband featured so ambiguously with another radiant woman. Yet, just seconds later, she recalled He Jin in an resolute tone from last night. His gaze had revealed no deceit. If there were anything to it, he would not have reacted so decisively. He might conceal the truth, but he would never so openly display affection and loyalty when she was probing. With this thought, the initial turbulence within when Qin Yao subsided swiftly. She could even analyze the photos with a calm demeanor. Zhu, don't be anxious. Look at these images. Your brother's expression remains aloof, and there's no physical contact. In that photo entering the club, they clearly arrived separately, and it was deliberately captured to make it seem like they entered together. This was likely a coincidental encounter, sensationalized by the media. He Jinju was taken aback by when Qin Yao's composure, momentarily speechless. But, Yao, aren't you angry? If it were true, I would be. But if it's false, getting upset over such fabrications is unwarranted. It only plays into someone else's hands. When Qin Yao affirmed, I trust him. He Jinju gazed at when Qin Yao's calm, yet resolute profile, suddenly feeling her strength and gentleness. She sighed in relief but still felt unsettled. That doesn't mean we can just let this slide. This trending topic is irritating. Yes, let him handle it. When Qin Yao replied with a smile, we still need to attend the opening ceremony. Let us not allow this matter to dampen our spirits. Seeing that when Qin Yao genuinely wasn't troubled, He Jinju's anger gradually dissipated. She wrapped her arm around when Qin Yao's sister-in-law, you're truly wonderful. My brother must have accumulated 8 lifetimes of good fortune to have you. Come on, let us go see the stars and not let these bothersome matters affect us. When Qin Yao nodded, placing her phone back in her bag, choosing to ignore the clamor of trending topics, she accompanied He Jinju as they proceeded to the film opening ceremony as planned. The lights sparkled brightly, and the stars gathered in abundance. He Jinju excitedly took photos, while when Qin Yao quietly sat beside her, a faint smile gracing her lips. Occasionally, her gaze would drift off, lost in thought. Chapter 61. Checking in as the film opening ceremony concluded amidst a dazzling array of stars and the cheers of fans. He Jinju contentedly scrolled through the photos of celebrities captured on her phone. Yet, the thought of the morning's trending topic dimmed her excitement. And she felt a pang of frustration for when Qin Yao, sister-in-law, I think we should go find my brother directly. You should see his reaction. He Jinju linked her arm with when Qin Yao's. When Qin Yao had also been preoccupied with this matter, although she trusted him. Seeing him in person and sensing his attitude would completely soothe the minor creases formed by the external noise. She nodded in agreement. All right. He Jinju pulled out her phone. I'll call him right now and ask where he is. Wait, Zhu. When Qin Yao gently pressed her hand down. I'll make the call. He Jinju blinked, instantly understanding, and grinned slyly. Oh, I get it, sister-in-law personally checking in. That's even more effective. I'll head back to the hotel to rest. I'm exhausted from running around all day. She feigned a yawn, leaving space for when Qin Yao. After He Jinju left, when Qin Yao found a relatively quiet corner and dialed He Jinnan's number. The phone rang for a moment before being answered. The background noise was somewhat chaotic, with faint sounds of clinking glasses and conversations, but it quickly quieted as if he had moved to a more secluded spot. Baby. He Jinnan's deep voice resonated, tinged with surprise and a barely perceptible joy. Why are you calling at this hour? Have you finished eating? Yes. When Qin Yao replied softly, unconsciously fidgeting with the hem of her clothing. Are you still entertaining guests? Yes. I'm at Wanju Club, still in a meeting. He Jinnan's voice carried a hint of fatigue, but he quickly perked up, asking, what's wrong? Missing me? He had a habit of teasing her. When Qin Yao bit her lip, bypassing his playful banter and casually inquired, yes, I do miss you. So I wanted to know, are there many people there? Who else is present? He Jinnan discerned the subtle hint of probing in her tone, and connecting it to the morning's gossip. He felt a sense of understanding, a flicker of amusement passing through his eyes. He feigned a moment's contemplation, his voice sounding as ordinary as ever. There are quite a few people here. Perhaps 5 or 6 from the partners. He paused, then leisurely added, yes, both men and women. Are there any female companions? When Qin Yao's voice instinctively rose a notch, before quickly suppressing it, attempting to appear indifferent to the staff accompanying him. I'm not quite sure of their specific roles. He Jinnan's voice came through the line, tinged with a casual nonchalance. Perhaps a secretary, or maybe just a friend brought by one of the partners. A slight pang gripped when Qin Yao's heart. Though reason told her this was quite normal, he had just pledged his loyalty the night before. Hearing him acknowledge the presence of other women, coupled with the morning's trending news, a subtle unease and bitterness began to unfurl within her. She took a deep breath, striving for tranquility in her tone. Oh, will you be busy for long? Perhaps a little while longer. Why? Is there something on your mind? He Jinnan feigned ignorance. Nothing major. When Qin Yao lowered her eyelashes, just a casual inquiry. You continue your work? I shan't disturb you. After hanging up, when Qin Yao remained rooted in place, gazing at the dazzling nightscape of Jiangcheng, her urge to see him at once intensifying. Trust notwithstanding, the desire to assert her claim over him surged within her. She decided against returning to the hotel and instead hailed a taxi, instructing the driver to take her to Wanju Club. She glanced down at her simple dress and flats chosen for convenience, a frown creasing her brow. It seemed insufficiently imposing for such an occasion. En route, she asked the driver to pause outside a high-end shopping mall. Half an hour later, when Qin Yao emerged from the restroom, her once flowing hair now loosely pinned up, revealing her elegant swan neck and beautifully defined collarbone. Her face bore a refined makeup, with slightly upturned eyeliner and full red lips, shedding some of her usual softness in favor of a more vivid and commanding presence. She donned an exceptionally simple yet striking black dress that hugged her waist and accentuated her curves, the fabric shimmering subtly, perfectly outlining her slender waist and full, rounded hips. The knee-length skirt unveiled her long, slender calves, and paired with her newly acquired stiletto heels, each step she took was imbued with grace and allure. Though she rarely opted for such an aggressive attire, at this moment, she wished to present herself before him in the most dazzling manner possible. Upon arriving at the entrance of Wanju Club, after stating He Jin Nan's name and the box number, the attendant's demeanor shifted to one of utmost respect. "Madam, please follow me." When Qin Yao nodded slightly, following the attendant to the private room on the top floor, the attendant opened the heavy door, and the sounds of laughter and conversation spilled out, only to abruptly hush upon her entrance. The dim lighting within the room created an intimate atmosphere, the air thick with the mingling scents of smoke, alcohol, and perfume. Indeed, several portly executives were accompanied by young and beautiful female companions, just as He Jin Nan had described. Meanwhile, He Jin Nan sat alone on the main sofa, his shirt sleeves casually rolled up, revealing a luxurious watch on his wrist. A dying cigarette held loosely between his fingers, his demeanor both detached and subtly impatient. As his gaze traversed the room and landed on the striking figure at the entrance, so starkly different from the woman he usually cherished, the impatience in his eyes was swiftly replaced by surprise and a surge of darker emotions. Almost immediately, he extinguished his cigarette and stood. Wen Qin Yao's eyes quickly scanned the room, confirming the presence of female companions, though they maintained a respectful distance from He Jin Nan. Her heart settled, and she met He Jin Nan's burning gaze. She lifted her chin slightly, striding toward him in her heels, oblivious to the astonished or inquisitive glances directed her way. Each step felt as if it tread upon his heart. He Jin Nan observed her in this alluring attire, a sight she had never before revealed to him. The complex gleam in her eyes, a mix of grievance and determination, caused his throat to constrict. He stepped forward, and before the breathless audience could react, he enveloped Wen Qin Yao tightly in his embrace, his possessiveness palpable. "What brings you here?" he murmured, lowering his head, his voice gravelly and heated against her ear. Wen Qin Yao raised her gaze within his embrace, her red lips slightly parted. Her voice soft yet clear enough for those nearby to hear, laced with just the right touch of playful reproach and grievance. "I came to check up on you, to see what this mix of men and women you mentioned is really like." Chapter 62. I've gone to such lengths, and you're still dressed so formally. He Jin Nan chuckled softly, his chest vibrating with amusement, tightening his grip around her arms, nearly cradling her as he held her securely against him. He turned his head, his eyes sweeping over the somewhat stunned partners in the room, his tone regaining its usual composure, yet imbued with an unmistakable declaration. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize, but my esteemed leader has come to inspect the work, so I must take my leave." As soon as these words left his lips, the previously stiff atmosphere in the private room sprang to life, mingled with good-natured laughter and teasing remarks. "Mr. He, who is this?" inquired a familiar figure, General Zhao. Raising his glass and smiling, his gaze subtly roaming over Wen Qin Yao, filled with admiration. He Jin and glanced down at Wen Qin Yao in his arms, a blush blooming on her cheeks, her eyes sparkling as they looked up at him with bashfulness, overwhelmed with affection. He raised his head and declared with an unprecedented clarity and seriousness, "My wife, Wen Qin Yao." The declaration of "my wife" resonated like a stamp, marking the occasion and imprinting upon the hearts of those who may have entertained some speculation. So she is Mrs. He. How fortunate Mr. He is, indeed. She is truly a breathtaking beauty. No wonder Mr. He seemed distracted earlier. He must have had an enchanting engagement. Compliments and jests erupted around them. He Jin and offered no further words, merely nodding with a smile as he guided Wen Qin Yao to exit, his steps quickening. "Mr. He, are you leaving already? The drinks are not finished," someone hollered. Without looking back, He Jin and waved his hand, his voice light yet firm. "It's urgent. Please enjoy yourselves. The bill is on me." As the door closed, sealing off the noise inside, the corridor fell silent. Yet He Jin Nan's pace did not slow. Rather, he hastened towards the elevator, pressing the button. Wen Qin Yao was half led, half dragged by him, the sharp click of her heels echoing in quick succession against the floor. Unable to restrain herself, she gently tugged at him. "Slow down. Why the rush?" The elevator doors opened with a chime, revealing an empty interior. He Jin Nan swiftly ushered her inside, pressing the button for the underground garage. The moment the doors closed, he pinned her against the smooth mirrored surface, his heated gaze fixed upon her, Why do you think I'm in such a hurry? He leaned down, resting his forehead against hers, their breaths mingling. His voice husky and fervent. Mrs. He, you look so stunning today, dressed to assert your claim, completely scrambling my heart. Did you expect me to remain composed? When Qingyao felt her cheeks flush and her heart race as he gazed at her, yet she mustered her remaining composure and playfully retorted. Who told you to speak so ambiguously about both men and women? I merely came to take a look. Have you seen enough? He interrupted, gently tracing her rosy lips with his thumb, his eyes darkening. Do you see how clean and tidy I am? Do you see me sitting here with thoughts solely of you? His candor left Wen Qingyao at a loss, causing her lashes to quiver and fall. Silence enveloped them as He Jinan drove back to their hotel with remarkable speed. The atmosphere in the car was taut and fervent, his right hand firmly clasping her left, occasionally caressing her fingers and wrist, sending tremors coursing through her. The elevator whisked them directly to the top-floor suite. As soon as they entered the room, He Jinan gently pressed Wen Qingyao against the door, and a searing kiss followed, imbued with the bittersweet scent of tobacco and the intoxicating aroma of alcohol, nearly stealing all her breath away. After a prolonged moment, he released her, resting his forehead against hers, his deep-set eyes swirling in the dim light of the foyer. Mrs. His voice was husky and teasing, yet laced with an undeniable fervor. How was the inspection? Are you satisfied? When Qingyao, rendered weak from his kiss and her heart beating wildly, struggled to regain her confidence, which had returned in the wake of his frankness and eagerness. She feigned annoyance, replying, it was passable. At least, the performance was satisfactory. He Jinan chuckled softly, kissing her again at the corners of her lips, her cheeks, and her earlobes, while his large hand began to wander, gliding down her graceful back and caressing the exquisite fabric of her dress. Just satisfactory? He mused, laughter in his voice, his breath growing heavier. Then I shall have to strive to impress you further. His fingers fumbled with the zipper at her side, the urgency of his actions betraying a hint of clumsiness as he struggled to unfasten it. He buried his face in the crook of her neck, inhaling her sweet and alluring fragrance, a mix of frustration and desire evident in his husky voice as he murmured, why is this dress so difficult to remove? His kisses lingered on her exposed collarbone and shoulders, savoring the exquisite softness of her skin, and he murmured in awe, how is it that you are so fair and delicate? He lifted his gaze, his eyes burning with intensity as they locked onto hers, filled with a near primal affection and longing. Grasping her trembling hand, he commanded in a heavy breath, darling, teach me how to remove your dress, shall we? When Qingyao felt her face flush with heat from his ardent words and actions, electricity coursing through her body, leaving her weak and breathless. Under his fervent gaze and gentle guidance, her fingertips trembled as she whispered shyly from the side. Her direction ignited the final spark. He Jinan swiftly found the key, deftly loosening the constraints of her dress. The black fabric cascaded to the floor like petals, pooling on the polished surface below. Have you missed me these past 2 days? He asked, his gaze piercing into her, as the tide of emotions threatened to engulf her. She turned her head, defiantly murmuring, not at all. He Jinan chuckled softly, unperturbed, tightening his embrace around her. He pressed his lips against her earlobe, his breath warm as he confessed, but I missed you, darling, so much that. He guided her hand to rest upon his taut chest, the insistence of his touch leaving no room for rejection. When Qingyao flinched, her face burning brighter, nearly crimson. He Jinan, you are too much. Her gaze drifted to his impeccably dressed attire, a stark contrast to her own state, invoking a sense of imbalance and embarrassment. Look at me, and yet you remain so composed. It hardly seems fair. Her voice faltered, tinged with an unintentional mix of reproach and bashfulness. The fire in He Jinan's eyes flared, a smirk curling his lips, radiating a devilish charm and indulgence. He seized her retreating hand, pressing it back against the cool metal of his belt buckle, guiding her fingers. Do you find it unfair? His voice was low and seductive, laced with an irresistible authority. Will you help me remove it, my dear? His gaze was unwavering, filled with encouragement and fervent anticipation. Overwhelmed by embarrassment, when Qingyao sought to withdraw once more, her voice trembling with shyness. I can't. You should do it yourself. My dear, you must learn, He Jinan insisted, refusing to allow her to shy away. He patiently guided her, his rough fingertips brushing against her hand, leading her to the clasp. A soft click echoed in the stillness, the sound stark against their shared breaths. The belt loosened, offering a momentary reprieve from its confinement. Since you taught me how to remove your dress, it is only fair that I teach you how to use this, don't you think? When Qingyao felt a blush creep up her neck, she longed to hide away, her fingers curling unconsciously as she whispered nearly inaudibly, you rogue. He Jinan relished her embarrassment, unwilling to let her escape. One hand remained firmly around her waist while the other deftly tore open the aluminum foil packaging. He lowered his head, his movements wild yet practiced, causing Wen Qingyao to feel parched as she instinctively averted her gaze. Look at me, my wife, he commanded, his voice husky with undeniable softness. Next time, it will be your turn to help me. Next time? Wen Qingyao's mind buzzed. Yet, ensnared by his intense gaze, she felt as if bewitched, her eyes eventually drifting back to his hands. He Jinan leaned down, capturing her lips in a deep kiss, their clothes strewn chaotically on the floor. Time lost meaning as they surrendered to the moment. Eventually, the storm subsided. When Xingyao lay languidly in He Jinnan's embrace, lacking the strength to even raise a finger, He Jinnan, satisfied, held her close, his fingers gently caressing her smooth back, filled with affection. He leaned down, placing a tender kiss on her damp temple. His voice husky and lazy as he asked, "The inspection is complete. Mrs. He, are you satisfied?" When Xingyao, too exhausted to glare at him, buried her flushed face deeper into the crook of his neck, mumbling indistinctly, "You're insufferable." He Jinnan chuckled softly, his chest vibrating as he tightened his hold around her. "Only insufferable? You certainly did not express that sentiment earlier." When Xingyao, feeling a wave of embarrassment, reached out to cover his mouth, but he easily captured her wrist, pressing a kiss to her palm. "All right, I won't tease you anymore." He understood her sensitivity, knowing that further teasing would genuinely irritate her. He pulled the thin blanket over them, asking, "Are you tired? Would you like to rest for a while?" She replied. He Jinan chuckled softly, kissing the top of her head before rising to head towards the bathroom. The sound of water cascaded melodiously as when Xingyao curled up within the warmth of her blanket. Her body languid and weary, yet her heart felt as if it were filled with a sweet, honeyed warmth. Her gaze inadvertently fell upon the shirt carelessly tossed on the back of the sofa by He Jinan, the very garment he had worn throughout the day. Compelled by an unexplainable urge, she gently rose, her bare feet gliding over the soft carpet as she retrieved the shirt. It still held his lingering scent, a faint whiff of tobacco and the crispness of aftershave. Burying her face into the fabric, she inhaled deeply, akin to a small creature confirming its territory. Just then, the sound of water from the bathroom ceased. Startled, Wen Xingyao instinctively wished to toss the shirt back, but it was too late. The bathroom door swung open, revealing He Jinan clad only in a towel around his waist, emerging with a veil of steam, catching her in the act. A glimmer of knowing amusement flickered in his dark eyes as he approached her leisurely, towel-clad and teasing. "What is Mrs. He up to? Inspecting homework?" Wen Xingyao's cheeks flushed crimson, her hands fumbling as she concealed the shirt behind her, feigning calmness. Who is inspecting anything? I was merely tidying up for you." "Oh." He Jinan raised an eyebrow, inching closer until he had her trapped between the sofa and himself, effortlessly snatching the shirt from her grasp, holding it before her. He purposefully took a sniff, then fixed her with a penetrating gaze, his amusement deepening. "What do you smell? Any traces of another woman?" Caught off guard, Wen Xingyao felt a wave of embarrassment wash over her, reflexively retorting, "I do not." However, He Jinan was relentless, gently lifting her chin with his finger, compelling her to meet his gaze. The shirt and the perfume? His playful demeanor shifted to one of seriousness, his eyes becoming profound. "Darling, look at me." Wen Xingyao's lashes fluttered as she met his eyes. "You saw the trending news, didn't you?" he asserted. Realizing she could not deceive him, she nodded slightly. Then immediately added, "But I do not believe it." Juju was very upset, and I even persuaded her to come see it. He Jinan scrutinized her eyes, detecting no signs of sulking or concealment, only a hint of lingering unease, perhaps even unbeknownst to her. A pang of tenderness struck him, and he sighed, gently enveloping her in his arms, resting his chin atop her head. "It was a coincidence that I ran into her at the entrance of Zhiyuan. I was unaware beforehand. She approached to greet me, but I did not respond, simply walked inside. It was barely 10 seconds, and an opportunist captured the angle." He paused, tightening his embrace. "I've instructed my lawyer to address it, and all false information will be swiftly retracted. Canyu Media will also receive my attorney's letter." His explanation was concise and direct, devoid of ambiguity, embodying his usual decisiveness and efficiency. Within his embrace, Wen Xingyao murmured a soft affirmation, wrapping her small hands around his waist. "I understand." After a brief pause, her voice softened further. "In truth, when I first saw it, my heart tightened a bit, but I quickly felt fine. Because of what you said last night, I remember it clearly. I trust you." A wave of warmth washed over He Jinan, accompanied by an indescribable sense of fulfillment. She had seen it and felt an instinctive discomfort, yet reason and trust prevailed. The sensation of unwavering trust from his beloved stirred a deeper emotion within him than any professional achievement ever could. Lowering his head, he placed a gentle kiss upon her forehead, his tone becoming particularly soft and deep. "It is my fault that those vile things tainted your eyes. Such coincidences shall not occur again." Wen Xingyao shook her head within his embrace, lifting her gaze to meet his, her eyes sparkling. "Actually, it is not entirely a bad thing. Is that so?" He Jinan raised an eyebrow. "Otherwise, how would I have the reason to launch a surprise attack?" A playful smile graced her lips, imbued with a hint of mischief and shyness. Moreover, her words faltered slightly as her fingertips unconsciously traced circles on his chest, seemingly hesitant, yet ultimately gathering the courage to voice a long-held curiosity. "And judging by your demeanor just now, and how well you are treating me, I can't help but wonder, why were you always so aloof towards me back at the He residence? It seemed as if you found my very presence bothersome." Her voice dwindled to a whisper, laced with a subtle hint of grievance and confusion, her gaze timidly fixed upon him, as though fearing that this inquiry might shatter the sweetness of the moment. He Jinan's hand, resting on her back, paused slightly. Chapter 64. "Thank you, my husband. How sweet his throat moved as he prepared to speak, his deep voice ready to escape. Just then, the phone resting on the bedside table vibrated unexpectedly, illuminating the screen with the name Zhao He. This sudden interruption shattered the intimate yet tense atmosphere of the bedroom. Instinctively, Wen Qingyao recoiled slightly, her arms loosening around his waist. He Jinan's brow furrowed imperceptibly, a flicker of displeasure flashing in his eyes. Glancing at the phone, he suppressed the tumult of emotions within and reached for the device. Hello? He answered, his tone reverting to its usual calm and icy demeanor. On the other end was an urgent work report regarding an unexpected project issue at the overseas branch that required his immediate attention. As he listened, his gaze remained fixed on Wen Qingyao. He noticed her expression of anticipation gradually fade into a faint disappointment, followed by her gently retreating from his embrace. Pulling up the blanket and softly saying, "You go ahead and handle it." He offered a few succinct commands into the phone, then hung up. The bedroom fell silent once more, but the earlier urgency to converse and inquire had dissipated. He Jinan observed Wen Qingyao as she turned slightly away, reaching out to draw her back into his arms to complete the interrupted explanation. Yet, Wen Qingyao spoke first, her tone gentle and considerate. "Work is important. You should take care of it. I am a bit tired and wish to sleep." She closed her eyes, her long lashes fluttering. He Jinan's hand hovered in the air for a moment before slowly descending to tuck her in. He understood that this was not the ideal time for explanations. That question required ample time and a focused atmosphere to address. Leaning down, he pressed a tender kiss to her smooth forehead, murmuring, "All right, you sleep first. I will tell you when I have the chance." Wen Qingyao did not open her eyes but responded with a barely audible hum. He Jinan gazed at her for a moment before rising to head to his study to attend to business matters. The soft click of the door echoed as the bedroom was left with only Wen Qingyao. Slowly opening her eyes, she gazed at the hazy moonlight filtering through the window, feeling a sense of emptiness within. The following day, He Jinan set off early to inspect the newly acquired branch in the western district of the city, with a packed schedule. Meanwhile, Wen Qingyao had arranged to go shopping with He Jinju to lift her spirits. The two ventured to the largest shopping center in the city center, with He Jinju bubbling with excitement, while Wen Qingyao accompanied her throughout the day. As night fell and the city lights illuminated the streets, Wen Qingyao received a call from He Jinan. "Wife, where are you?" His voice suggested he had just finished work. The background noise serene. "At Hunglong Plaza with Zhu Zhu, send me your location and wait there. I will come to pick you up." His voice came through the static, imbued with an undeniable authority. Half an hour later, He Jinan's black Maybach pulled up at the entrance of the mall. Driving the car himself, he rolled down the window, his gaze precisely locking onto Wen Qingyao, who was standing by the roadside. He Jinju, perceptive as ever, immediately caught the look in her elder brother's eyes and playfully exclaimed, "Oh, I just remembered I scheduled to meet a friend from Jiangcheng. Big brother, you can take Yao Yao home. Don't worry about me." Without waiting for their reactions, she swiftly hailed a taxi and disappeared. Wen Qingyao, He Jin seemed pleased with his sister's perceptiveness. He exited the vehicle and walked around to the passenger side, opening the door for Wen Qingyao. The car glided smoothly into the flow of traffic, yet it was not headed toward the hotel. "Where are we going?" Wen Qingyao inquired, puzzled. "I will take you for a little stroll," He Jinan replied, unfazed. Wen Qingyao was taken aback. "Aren't you busy?" He Jinan responded, "I still have time to accompany my wife." Indeed, He Jinan did not stop at any hotel, but drove directly in another direction. Eventually, the car halted at a scenic platform by the river. The view was expansive, with the dazzling city skyline across the water, and the evening breeze carried a hint of the river's refreshing chill. He Jinan stepped out first and retrieved something from the trunk, a large bouquet of vibrant red roses, blooming brilliantly, their color stunning under the night sky and the car's headlights. Approaching the slightly dazed Wen Qingyao, he presented the bouquet to her. Unlike the previous bouquet of pale pink roses that hinted at ambiguity, this bouquet of red roses was passionate, direct, and unreserved. "I wanted to give you a bouquet every day, but didn't have the time this morning," he stated succinctly, yet it conveyed his heartfelt intentions. This gesture compensated for the morning's mist ritual and the warmth interrupted the night before. Holding the heavy bouquet, the rich fragrance enveloped her, instantly dispelling her fatigue. She lowered her head, her cheeks reddening even more than the roses in her embrace, and softly murmured, "Thank you." He Jinan looked down at her bashful expression. His heart stirred. Just as he was about to pull her into his arms, he heard her whisper, "He Jinan, I want to go to the amusement park." He Jinan was momentarily taken aback. This request was entirely unexpected. Such a man, accustomed to dealing with data and business negotiations, seemed out of place with the notion of an amusement park. Wen Qingyao lifted her gaze. Her eyes filled with anticipation and a hint of timid pleading. "You've never been, have you? I want to take you there." She recalled him mentioning during a family chat that his childhood and youth were filled with rigorous studies and family responsibilities, making a place like an amusement park, filled with the laughter of ordinary children, foreign and distant for him. He Jinan gazed into her sparkling eyes, brimming with starlight, and the hope within them made it impossible for him to refuse. Although he found such places excessively noisy and childish, if it was her wish, if she would be by his side. His stern brow softened as he gently tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, his voice low and indulgent. All right, wherever you wish to go, I will accompany you. The two of them drove to the amusement park. When Qing Yao, clutching the fiery red roses, looked up at the man beside her, dressed in a suit that seemed slightly out of place in the casual surroundings, and couldn't he help but smile softly. He Jin-nan, do you think going to the amusement park is childish? He Jin-nan turned his head. The evening breeze by the river tousling a few strands of hair, softening his sharp features. He met her gaze, which sparkled with mischief and a hint of challenge, and candidly replied, if it were with someone else, I would consider it a waste of my precious time. He paused slightly, his eyes fixed on her face. But with you it is different. Whatever you wish to do, no matter how childish, holds significance. As his words faded, he naturally took her hand, leading her toward the brightly lit and bustling entrance of the amusement park. The night park resembled a vast, colorful dreamscape. The music of the carousel, the screams from the roller coasters, and the sweet aroma of various snacks melded together, brimming with the vibrancy of life. Passing by a cotton candy stall, he Jin-nan halted. Observing the fluffy pink clouds of sugar, he glanced at the person beside him and walked over to purchase the largest one. When he presented the enormous cotton candy that nearly obscured half his face to Wen Qing Yao, she was momentarily stunned before bursting into laughter. The formidable He Jin-nan, a figure of astute decision-making in the corporate world, holding such a whimsical and childlike treat, created a striking contrast that softened her heart. This is for you, He Jin-nan stated, his expression still calm, though a faint hue of pink appeared near his ears. Wen Qing Yao accepted it, carefully tearing off a piece and placing it in her mouth, the sweetness instantly melting on her tongue and resonating deep within her heart. Thank you, husband. It's so sweet. You should try some too, she said, tearing off a small piece and quickly feeding it to He Jin-nan. He was clearly taken aback by her unexpected gesture, pausing for a moment. The sugary taste was somewhat unfamiliar to him, but seeing her eyes twinkling with delight, he found the flavor surprisingly agreeable. The two walked hand in hand through the park, like an ordinary couple. He Jin-nan's stature and presence were so striking that even in a simple shirt and trousers, his elegance was undeniable. Wen Qing Yao, graceful and gentle, complimented him beautifully. Passers-by occasionally cast amazed or envious glances in their direction. As they approached a gigantic Ferris wheel adorned with countless colorful lights, a young girl with a camera mustered the courage to run over, her cheeks flushed. Excuse me, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Your aura as a couple is incredible. You truly seem perfect for each other. I'm an amateur photographer. Would you mind if I took a picture of you for a memento? Right in front of the Ferris wheel. Wen Qing Yao was somewhat surprised and looked up at He Jin-nan. He usually disliked being disturbed by strangers, especially when it came to being photographed. However, He Jin-nan merely glanced at Wen Qing Yao, noticing her anticipation and a hint of shyness in her eyes. And with rare acquiescence, nodded slightly to the girl, sure. He effortlessly wrapped his arms around Wen Qing Yao, allowing her to lean against his chest. Wen Qing Yao still held the striking red roses and the adorable cotton candy in her hands. The girl excitedly found a good angle and snapped several photos. That is wonderful. Thank you both. Wishing you a lifetime of happiness, the girl exclaimed, gazing at the camera screen with genuine admiration before happily running away. This little interlude made Wen Qing Yao's heart feel even softer. Finally, they boarded the cabin of the Ferris wheel. The transparent glass compartment slowly ascended, and the cityscape below transformed into a sprawling tapestry of twinkling stars, growing ever broader and more distant. In the confined space, it was just the two of them, and the atmosphere turned serene and warm. Wen Qing Yao gazed at the dreamlike scenery outside and gently spoke, her voice tender and sincere. He Jin-nan. He responded, his gaze unwaveringly fixed on her. It is said that making a wish at the highest point of a Ferris wheel is remarkably potent. She turned her head, her clear eyes reflecting the myriad lights of the city outside, as well as his silhouette. I hope you can always remain as you are now, relaxed and joyful, able to relish all the small joys you have missed. I wish for your everlasting happiness and love. He Jin-nan, felt as though the softest feather had brushed against his heart, or that he was enveloped by warm spring water. He had never believed in such ethereal legends. Yet at this moment, he was willing to embrace every ounce of sincerity in her words. He extended his hand, gently grasping hers, his fingertips warm and firm. Gazing into her eyes, his deep, slow voice resonated within the confined cabin, each word laden with significance and promise. None of that matters, Yao Yao. He called her name with utmost solemnity. As long as you are by my side, I am content. Wen Qing Yao smiled, wishing for nothing more at that moment than to enjoy the present with him and love each other deeply. All right, I will always be with you, whenever you need me. As the Ferris wheel reached its zenith, the outside world transformed into a dazzling sea of lights. Inside the cabin, He Jin-nan leaned down and gently kissed her lips. The fragrance of roses lingered in the air, and the sweetness of cotton candy remained on their lips, making the happiness of that moment palpably real. In the distance, fireworks seemed to burst forth, illuminating the night sky and the profound affection evident in their eyes. After enjoying the amusement rides, they left the park, heading towards the parked Maybach. The car glided smoothly into the flow of nighttime traffic. Wen Qing Yao, clutching flowers, turned her head to watch the colorful lights rush by outside, a smile still gracing her lips. Her heart was filled to the brim, and everything that night felt too beautiful to be true. However, she soon realized that Jin Nan was not driving back to the hotel. Instead, he gradually veered away from the bustling city center. The streetlights became sparse, and the surroundings shifted from towering buildings to undeveloped wasteland, silent and deserted, save for the distant glow of construction site floodlights. Where are we going? Wen Qingyao asked, her curiosity piqued as she turned to the man in the driver's seat. Jin Nan's profile appeared even more profound in the dim light, his gaze fixed ahead, his tone devoid of emotion as he replied coolly, to find a quiet place. Her heart skipped a beat, an inexplicable apprehension rising within her. A quiet place? In such a desolate area? Before she could ponder further, Jin Nan had already exited the main road, finally stopping in an utterly dark space, illuminated only by the faint glow of the moonlight. The engine fell silent, plunging the world into absolute stillness, with only their clear breaths audible. The cabin lights remained off, the dashboard casting a ghostly blue light that outlined Jin Nan's tall frame. He unbuckled his seatbelt, then turned to her, his penetrating gaze fixing upon her in the darkness. Yao Yao, he called softly, his voice lower and huskier than usual. What's wrong? Wen Qingyao sensed something, her cheeks flushing instantly as her fingers unconsciously tightened around the petals of the flowers. Jin Nan reached out, not to embrace her, but to unfasten her seatbelt. The click echoed sharply in the quiet cabin. Then, his warm hand gently grasped her waist with undeniable strength, softly commanding, his breath hot against her ear. Come here. Sit on my lap. Wen Qingyao stiffened, almost believing she had misheard. She looked at him in disbelief. What did you say? Her voice trembled slightly from shock and embarrassment. In the car? No, that is not possible. Jin Nan's arm tightened slightly, almost forcing her from the passenger seat and guiding her over the center console. His intentions were frighteningly clear. Jin Nan. Wen Qingyao felt a mix of shyness and urgency, her hand pressed against his solid chest, feeling the heat and rhythm of his heart beneath the fabric. She felt weak all over yet still struggled to whisper, this is not right. It's too outrageous. You rogue. Her words came out in a flurry, her face burning with embarrassment. Though they were already married and had shared countless intimate moments, this situation and manner were far beyond her modest comfort zone. Jin Nan, however, merely chuckled softly. He firmly held her waist, helping her settle onto his lap. The closeness of their bodies made her breath hitch, and her blood rushed to her face. Why not? He looked up at her. There's no one here, just you and me. One of his hands securely encircled her waist, preventing her escape, while the other gently caressed her flushed cheek, his thumb softly tracing her tender lips. Wen Qingyao felt herself melting under his touch, the remnants of her rationality compelling her to make one last protest. Her voice tinged with a whimper of embarrassment. Can we go back to the hotel? I'm afraid of being seen here. Anywhere else would be fine. Her words were fragmented, nearly incoherent. Jin Nan pressed his thumb against her lower lip, his voice gravelly and laden with mischief. I couldn't help myself, darling. Seeing you on the Ferris wheel earlier made me want this. Outside, the moonlight cast a cold glow over the desolate space. The black Maybach sat silently, seemingly merging with the surrounding stillness. Yet, upon closer inspection, one could discern that the car was not entirely motionless. After some time, when Qingyao lay softly in Jin Nan's embrace, utterly exhausted, she could hardly lift a finger, her hair slightly damp, her breath still rapid. Jin Nan's hand moved languidly along her smooth back, as if soothing her while lingering in the moment. As she regained her breath, memories of their earlier fervor flooded her mind, and a sense of shame washed over her belatedly. Unable to resist, she raised her hand and lightly thumped his chest, her voice still carrying a hint of a sultry complaint. Why do you act as if you've been starving for ages? Aren't you tired? Jin Nan chuckled softly, the vibrations resonating through his chest as he tightened his embrace, bending down to kiss the top of her head. Indeed, it has been a long time. His words trailed off, and images that had been deliberately suppressed surged forth in stark clarity, imbued with a searing intensity. Those countless deep nights and early mornings. The steam of the bathroom, or the moments alone in his study when her laughter would uncontrollably invade his thoughts, her delicate neck. The graceful curve of her waist as she inadvertently bent down. In his dreams, she too would be in his arms, their breaths mingling. The difference was that in dreams, the sensations were always shrouded in a veil of abstraction. Upon waking, he was left with only a cold emptiness. The longing had been pent up for too long, the desire too profound. Thus, the reality of possessing her now felt almost dreamlike, yet infinitely more fervent than any dream. And through it all, she remained blissfully unaware. She is merely his silent desire in the darkness, a fervent fantasy restrained during his moments of clarity. She embodies the sweet torment he bears alone, a secret he keeps close to his heart. At last, this torment has found complete redemption. He bows his head, burying his nose in her fragrant hair, genuinely possessing all that he yearns for in his dreams. His kiss lands softly atop her head, imbued with immeasurable reverence and an indescribable sigh of dreams realized. His voice, warm against her ear, breathes. Is this all there is tonight? That was merely a trifling interest paid. Wen Qingyao feels as though life has abruptly transitioned back to routine from that moonlit night, filled with passion upon returning to Jingcheng. Yet something has quietly shifted. The once tenuous barrier between Wen Qingyao and He Jinan has been entirely torn away, allowing a deeper intimacy and understanding to flow between their emotions. Wen Qingyao wholeheartedly dedicates herself to her studies at Jingda. One afternoon, having just exited the piano room, she is summoned to the office by the department head. With barely concealed delight, the department head presents her with an exquisite invitation. Qingyao, I bring good news. This year, the Asia-Pacific Cup International Youth Music Competition has added a piano solo category, and the organizing committee has extended an invitation to our academy. After careful consideration, the faculty has decided to recommend you to represent Jingda, and even the nation at this competition. This is a prestigious event, where many professional pianists have emerged. Wen Qingyao's heart leaps, almost bursting from her chest. She delicately picks up the invitation, her fingertips trembling slightly. The Asia-Pacific Cup. This is the stage she has long coveted. One of the premier international competitions she has idolized throughout her years of piano study, having watched past winners' performances countless times, dreaming of that dazzling stage. Overwhelmed with joy and disbelief, her cheeks flush with excitement, her eyes sparkling brilliantly, her voice trembling. Really? Thank you, Director. Thank you for the trust. I will give it my all. The department head smiles with satisfaction. Your own talent has earned you this opportunity. Prepare well. The Academy will fully support you. The repertoire demands high standards, and time is not particularly abundant, so you must make haste. Leaving the administrative building with the heavy invitation in hand, Wen Qingyao feels as though the autumn sky in Jingxing has never appeared so brilliantly blue. She can hardly wait to share this wonderful news with the first person who comes to mind. She promptly retrieves her phone and dials his number. The phone rings once before being answered, and He Jinan's deep, magnetic voice comes through, the background hinting at a meeting room, which quickly falls silent as he steps away to take her call. Baby? What's wrong? His voice carries a subtle note of concern, as she usually does not call him at this hour. He Jinan. Wen Qingyao's voice brims with uncontainable excitement and joy, like a jubilant little bird. I have the most incredible news to share with you. Oh, what news has you so elated? He Jinan's lips curve into an involuntary smile. His spirits lifted by her joy amidst his busy workday. It's the Asia-Pacific Cup, the international youth music competition. The Academy has recommended me to participate in the piano competition. Wen Qingyao speaks rapidly, fearing that this joy might slip away if she slows down. Do you know about this competition? It's incredibly prestigious. I am so thrilled. He Jinan is well aware. He has even been one of the decision-makers for a sponsorship segment of this event in a previous capacity. He understands the weight and influence of this platform. Of course I know, he replies, pride and affirmation resonating in his voice. This is a top-tier event. You are truly remarkable. He can envision her elation in this moment. Congratulations, darling. This is an exceptional opportunity, and you absolutely deserve it. His words are steady and powerful, imbued with a reassuring strength. Is there anything you need from me? The best mentor, a dress for the competition? Wen Qingyao feels a sweet warmth in her heart. His first thought is to remove all obstacles and provide her with the best support. No, the Academy will handle everything. I'm just so happy that I wanted to tell you first. I feel honored. He Jinan chuckles softly, his voice weaving through the receiver, tickling her heart. Let us celebrate properly when you come home tonight, my grand pianist. After hanging up, Wen Qingyao remains enveloped in immense excitement. Her steps light as she heads to the piano room, eager to begin her practice. From that day forward, her life revolves almost entirely around her piano playing. The competition repertoire is of high difficulty. She sets stringent standards for herself, striving for perfection in every note and phrase. While Jingda's piano facilities are excellent, she prefers the soundproof piano room that He Jinan specially designed for her at home. It houses her beloved Steinway grand piano and offers a comforting environment. Each day after classes, she hastily finishes dinner and dives into the piano room, practicing for hours on end. Initially, He Jinan is fully supportive and proud. He quietly sits in the corner of the piano room, handling business, accompanying her, offering her a glass of warm water when she pauses to ponder, or gently massaging her furrowed brow with his fingertips. The melodious or impassioned sounds of the piano fill their home, a source of enjoyment for him. However, as the competition date approaches, Wen Qingyao practices later and later, often until 11 or midnight, with the lights still blazing in the piano room and the music uninterrupted. Her focus and dedication tug at his heart, yet the feeling of being neglected gradually festers within a man accustomed to controlling everything and monopolizing her attention. Especially when he finishes work, bathes, and leans against the master bedroom door in his robe, watching her slender figure still lost in the world of black and white keys. A mix of worry and unfulfilled desire begins to quietly brew within him. She has been so exhausted from late-night practice that she has overlooked countless subtle hints and embraces from him for an entire week. He Jinan feels he is becoming the most understanding, yet most frustrated husband in history. That night, the clock strikes 11:30 once more. In the piano room, Wen Qingyao is diligently refining the third movement of Beethoven's Appassionata, her fingers dancing swiftly across the keys, her expression focused, completely unaware of the figures silently approaching from behind. He Jinan's patience has worn thin. Quietly, he strides up behind her, choosing not to disturb her, But when she pauses again due to an imperfect tone, he suddenly leans down, his arms sweeping under her armpits and behind her knees, lifting her effortlessly. When Qingyao gasps, her entire being momentarily suspended in midair as she is swept into his embrace. The familiar scent of sandalwood enveloped her, prompting an instinctive embrace around the man's neck as she gazed at his elegantly defined jawline with a sense of bewilderment. He Jin-nan, what are you doing? I haven't perfected this segment yet. He Jin-nan, holding her close, strode purposefully out of the piano room, his tone unmistakably firm and tinged with evident dissatisfaction. Have a look at the time. You need to rest. But I'm not tired yet. Just give me another half hour, please, when Qingyao protested, struggling in his embrace. Attempting to negotiate. The urgency of the competition left her no room for complacency. Not tired? He Jin-nan glanced down at her, his gaze profound, his arm steady like a rock. Look at the redness in your eyes. Is that normal? Your fingers need rest as well. Overpracticing can lead to muscle strain and affect your performance. His reasoning left when Qingyao momentarily speechless, but she still muttered softly, but the competition is crucial. You are more important. He Jin-nan interjected decisively, already carrying her into the bedroom and gently shutting the door with his foot. If you're worn out, how can you compete? He laid her softly on the plush bed, his body hovering over hers, arms braced beside her, effectively trapping her between himself and the mattress. His warm breath cascaded over her face, exuding a palpable pressure mixed with a subtle hint of grievance. Moreover, Mrs. He continued, his fingertips brushing the slightly reddened corners of her eyes from prolonged practice, his voice lowering to a magnetic timbre. You have neglected your husband for many days. Each night, I hold you only to watch you fall asleep from exhaustion. Do you know how challenging that is for my self-control? When Qingyao's face flushed instantly. Indeed, she had devoted herself entirely to her practice, neglecting his feelings. Being confronted so directly by him made her acutely aware of her guilt. The unmasked desire and restraint in his gaze softened her heart. I'm sorry, I just want to perform well. Her voice dwindled, tinged with a hint of remorse. I know, He Jin-nan replied, placing a gentle kiss on her eyelid, filled with affection. My darling has dreams and aspirations. I am proud of you. But one must balance work and rest, all right? You must sleep tonight. His kisses then traveled to her nose, her cheek, finally lingering on her slightly parted lips. Tender yet irresistibly persuasive, drawing out her sweetness, while silently releasing the pent-up frustration of being overlooked in recent days. When Qingyao felt herself grow weak from his kiss, her focus on the musical score gradually blurring. His presence, warmth, and dominance effortlessly dismantled her resolve. As the kiss concluded, both of them were slightly breathless. He Jin-nan rested his forehead against hers, his thumb caressing her luscious lips, his voice gravelly. Now, will you obediently close your eyes and sleep? Or shall I assist you in my own way? The implication in his words was unmistakable. When Qingyao's cheeks reddened further, she realized that given his current state and usual decisiveness, choosing the latter would likely result in her inability to rise for practice the following morning. I'll sleep by myself, she quickly decided, hastily wrapping herself in the blanket, leaving only her pair of glistening eyes visible, glaring at him with a mix of reproach and shyness. He Jin-nan chuckled softly. He lay down beside her, embracing her along with the blanket. Switching off the bedside lamp. In the darkness, his warm palm gently covered her abdomen, rhythmically kneading it. A gesture of care as he remembered her discomfort before her menstrual cycle better than she did herself. Sleep now, he instructed gently, his voice particularly soothing in the night. Tomorrow, I'll accompany you for practice and be your audience. In his arms, when Qingyao found a comfortable position, nuzzling closer, her nose filled with his reassuring scent. She murmured, her eyelids growing heavy. Good night, dear. Soon, her breathing became steady and elongated, completely slipping into slumber. In the darkness, He Jin-nan listened to her tranquil breaths, leaning down to place a soft kiss atop her head. On the day of the competition, the atmosphere inside and outside the concert hall in the capital was vibrant and grand. The finals of the Asia-Pacific Cup International Youth Music Competition were held here, and the audience seating, which could accommodate 1,000 people, was nearly full. The air was thick with an elegant artistic atmosphere and a palpable sense of tension. Backstage, when Qingyao had finished her makeup and donned the custom white gown adorned with diamonds that He Jin-nan had designed for her, resembling a noble and graceful swan. Yet, her slender fingers were subtly entwined, betraying her inner anxiety. With the competition about to commence, her most important audience had yet to arrive. Zhu, where is your brother? Why can't I reach him? When Qingyao set down her phone once more, the screen still dark. The unanswered calls filling her with an inexplicable sense of dread. She turned to He Jin-ju, who had come to cheer her on. He Jin-ju looked exceptionally radiant today, linking her arm with Wen Qingyao's, striving to appear composed. Sister-in-law, don't worry. Big brother might be stuck in traffic or parking and hasn't heard the phone. Given the international competition venue, it was likely particularly congested today. Rest assured, he promised to support you. When has he ever gone back on his word? He would come even if the sky were to fall. Though she offered comforting words, an unsettling doubt blossomed in her heart. Her brother had always prioritized Wen Qingyao, especially on this significant day, and logically, He should have arrived by now and would never ignore her calls. A sense of foreboding lingered in her mind. However, when Qing Yao furrowed her brow, her unease rippling like stones cast into a lake. Stop overthinking, beautiful Yao Yao. He Jinju quickly interrupted her spiraling thoughts, pushing her toward the makeup mirror. Look at you. You are stunning. You'll be on stage soon, so focus and give it your all. Let everyone see how remarkable our Yao Yao is. Big brother must be planning to surprise you. He might be hiding in some corner, ready to cheer you on. When Qing Yao managed a strained smile at He Jinju's words, taking a deep breath to suppress her worries. Yes, the competition was paramount. She could not allow her emotions to derail her. For this day, she had put forth immense effort, and she must not allow her feelings to sabotage it. He Jin-nan was likely genuinely delayed by something. He would surely arrive. The staff came to announce that the contestants should prepare to enter the stage. When Qing Yao took one last glance at her phone, still devoid of any messages or missed calls, she entrusted her phone to He Jinju for safekeeping. Inhaling deeply once more in an effort to enter the competitive mindset, He Jinju watched her elegant, yet subtly melancholic silhouette as she moved towards the waiting area, and her growing sense of unease intensified. Just then, her phone vibrated. The name flashing on the screen was none other than her brother's. He Jinju hurriedly walked to a quieter corner to answer the call, lowering her voice. Brother, why are you just now calling? Sister-in-law is nearly frantic. Where are you? The voice that came through the phone was not the calm and composed tone of He Jinan, but rather one tinged with a sense of urgency and heaviness that was being deliberately suppressed. Juju, listen to me. Grandfather has suddenly collapsed and is currently in the hospital undergoing emergency treatment. I'm at the hospital and can't leave. My parents are still in Yuqing and Haven T returned. What? He Jinju was taken aback, nearly crying out in shock, hastily covering her mouth, her heart sinking heavily. How is grandfather? Is it serious? The situation is still unclear. The doctors are inside. Don't panic. He Jinan's voice came through the line, carrying a subtle hint of fatigue and steadiness. Your sister-in-law's competition is about to begin. She must not know about this. It would affect her performance. Find a reason to keep her calm and focused on the competition. We can discuss everything once it's over. I understand. He Jinju grasped her elder brother's intention. Grandfather's illness was a grave matter, but her sister-in-law had invested so much effort into this competition. I'll handle things here at the hospital. You take care of everything on your end. Let us keep in touch. After He Jinan finished speaking, he hurriedly hung up the phone, clearly indicating that the situation was tense. He Jinju clutched her overheated phone, her palms icy. She endeavored to calm her racing heart and the worry for her grandfather, quickly arranging her expression before walking towards Wen Qingyao, who had just completed her draw and was looking in her direction. How is it? Was that your brother's call? Has he arrived? Wen Qingyao asked eagerly, her eyes filled with anticipation. He Jinju forced a relaxed smile, adopting a tone as natural as possible. Yes, it was my elder brother. He said he has an urgent international video conference that he simply cannot postpone. He is in the car handling it with his laptop. He told you not to worry and to focus on your performance. He will try to make it here, and even if he can't arrive for the start, he will definitely see your most brilliant moments and cheer you on. This reasoning sounded plausible. He Jinan's job often encountered such unforeseen circumstances. The light in Wen Qingyao's eyes dimmed for a moment, flickering with disappointment, yet understanding and resignation prevailed. She nodded. All right, work is important. Let him focus. I want to worry about myself. Rest assured, sister-in-law, just dazzle everyone with your performance. My brother's heart is certainly with you. He Jinju cheered her on, although her own heart was a tumult of emotions. As the competition commenced, the contestants took turns to perform. Wen Qingyao's number was later in the lineup, and she waited backstage, striving to eliminate distractions while memorizing the score. He Jinju accompanied her, yet her heart burned with anxiety, worried for both her grandfather in the hospital and her sister-in-law on stage. Finally, it was Wen Qingyao's turn to perform. He Jinju hugged her tightly. Sister-in-law, good luck. Wen Qingyao nodded, taking a deep breath, lifting her skirt, and gracefully yet resolutely walked onto the stage illuminated by stars. The spotlight focused on her as countless expectant gazes fell upon her. She approached the piano, offered a slight bow, and then sat down. In that moment, all anxiety and unease were buried deep within her heart, leaving only the black and white keys before her and the music flowing within. She was completely immersed in it. He Jinju watched from the side stage, feeling proud of her sister-in-law's outstanding performance while simultaneously preoccupied with thoughts of the hospital. Seizing the opportunity while Wen Qingyao was wholly absorbed in her playing, she quietly retreated to a more distant corner backstage and called He Jinan again. Brother, how is grandfather? She asked urgently in a low voice. He is still in the emergency room. I will inform you as soon as I have news, He Jinan replied, his tone still somber. Is Yao Yao alright? She is doing well. She is already on stage and very focused. You don't need to worry. I told her you were in an emergency meeting. Alright, once her performance is over, you. He Jinan's words were interrupted when He Jinju seemed to hear a faint female voice on the other end saying, Jinan, drink some water. In a gentle and familiar tone. He Jinju's heart tightened instinctively. Brother, who is beside you? There was a moment of silence on the other end before He Jinan's voice, devoid of emotion, responded, "It's Tsue Inyu." She happened to return to visit grandfather and coincidentally encountered his sudden illness, assisting in bringing him to the hospital. How could she? Hei Jinju blurted out, disbelief lacing her voice. It's a coincidence, Hei Jinan interrupted, his tone steady yet firm, carrying an air that suggested the topic should not be pursued. Now is not the time to discuss this. Grandfather's situation is still unstable. Once Yao Yao finishes her performance, explain the situation to her to prevent unnecessary worry. I will arrange for a car to pick you up. Be careful on the way. I understand. Hei Jinju suppressed her myriad doubts and concerns, acknowledging that now was not the time for inquiries. She hung up the phone, took a deep breath, and refocused her attention on the stage. When Xingyao's performance was nearing its conclusion, the notes surging like a tide before settling into tranquility. As the final note fell, the audience fell silent for a moment before erupting into enthusiastic applause. When Xingyao rose and bowed, under the spotlight, her cheeks flushed with excitement, and her gaze sparkled like stars. Subconsciously, she glanced towards the audience, searching for the one figure she longed to see, but once again found only emptiness. A hint of undeniable disappointment crossing her eyes. She hurried back to the backstage. The first thing she did was find Hei Jinju to retrieve her phone. The screen remained clear, devoid of any missed calls or new messages. Her heart sank further, the previously suppressed unease resurfacing. Juju, hasn't your brother's meeting ended? When Xingyao observed Hei Jinju, noting that her expression seemed somewhat off. Juju, is something wrong? Don't hide it from me. Is it your elder brother? Hei Jinju realized she could no longer conceal the truth and grasped her hand firmly. Sister-in-law, don't panic. It's not my brother, it's grandfather. He suddenly collapsed and was taken to the hospital for emergency treatment. My brother has been at the hospital, which is why he hasn't been able to answer the phone or come. When Xingyao instantly panicked. Grandfather? Is it serious? Which hospital? We need to hurry. All feelings of disappointment and speculation were instantly replaced by concern for the elderly man, her voice rising in pitch with urgency. He.s. at the Central Hospital. My brother told us to go there after the competition ends. Hei Jinju spoke quickly as she helped Wen Xingyao gather her belongings. Not even bothering to change out of her gown, simply throwing on a jacket for her. The car is waiting outside. We'll head there directly. The two rushed out of the backstage, traversing the still bustling corridors of the concert hall, making their way swiftly to the parking lot. They quickly got into the car, which sped towards the Central Hospital. Upon arriving at the hospital, they inquired about the location of the emergency room and hastened towards the surgical floor. Their hearts were tightly bound to the elderly Hei, and neither noticed as they turned a corner in the hospital corridor. A woman dressed simply yet exuding a gentle demeanor was exiting from another elevator, brushing past them. The woman's gaze seemed to inadvertently sweep over the hurried figures of Wen Xingyao and Hei Jinju, lingering for a fleeting moment on Wen Xingyao's dazzling performance gown. Her expression calm and unperturbed before she turned and quietly departed in the opposite direction. Wen Xingyao and Hei Jinju were entirely focused on their urgent journey, completely unaware of their brief intersection. At the end of the corridor, He Jinan stood alone outside the emergency room. His tall figure cast a long shadow in the light, evoking a sense of solitude and heaviness. He Jinan. When Xingyao called out, hurrying to his side, her voice laced with urgency. How is Grandpa? He Jinan turned, fatigue evident on his face, but his expression softened instantly upon seeing Wen Xingyao. He embraced her gently, patting her back reassuringly. Why are you here so soon? Grandpa is still inside. Don't worry too much. His embrace was as strong and comforting as ever, and Wen Xingyao clung to him tightly, burying her face in his chest. Inhaling his familiar scent mingled with a hint of antiseptic. He Jinju, anxious as well, questioned him, but He Jinan shook his head, his gaze drifting over Wen Xingyao's head to exchange a silent understanding with his sister, signaling her to refrain from further inquiries for the time being. At that moment, the emergency room door swung open, and a doctor emerged. Removing his mask, the doctor wore a weary yet reassuring smile. The rescue was timely. The old gentleman is temporarily out of danger. This proclamation felt like a pardon, instantly easing the tension in their hearts. Wen Xingyao's legs weakened, nearly giving way. Relying solely on He Jinan's arm for support, He Jinju exhaled deeply, her hands clasped together, murmuring, "That's wonderful, as long as Grandpa is okay." However, the doctor shifted his tone, his expression turning serious. The old gentleman is advanced in age, and this sudden heart attack was quite perilous. Although we have saved his life, he will require close monitoring to prevent complications and further blockages. He needs to be admitted to the cardiac care unit for observation tonight, and if stable, he can be transferred to a regular ward tomorrow. Family members must take special care to avoid any emotional distress for the elderly. Absolute rest is essential. We understand. Thank you for your hard work, He Jinan replied steadily, his furrowed brow easing slightly, though the gravity in his eyes remained. Soon, the nurses wheeled the elderly gentleman out of the emergency room, attached to various monitoring devices, his complexion pale, eyes closed, still in slumber. The trio followed the moving bed to the ward entrance. Family members must stop here. There are professional nurses inside to attend to him. You cannot enter and would only disturb the patient's rest. Please leave a contact number, and we will notify you immediately if anything arises, the nurse intervened. Gazing through the glass window at his grandfather being settled, the rhythmic and faint glow of the machines surrounding him, He Jinan remained silent for a moment before turning away. Zhu, you have professional classes early tomorrow. You cannot delay. Go home and rest, he stated with an authoritative tone. But, brother, grandpa. He Jinju appeared unconvinced. I will be here, He Jinan interrupted. The doctor said he needs peace and quiet. Having so many of us here is futile. Rest well, and come back tomorrow afternoon when you have no classes. He Jinju understood that once her brother made a decision, it was challenging to change, yet his reasoning was sound. So she nodded reluctantly. All right then. Call me immediately if anything happens. Okay, He Jinan replied, then turned his gaze to Wen Qingyao. Qingyao, you should return with Zhu. She immediately shook her head, gripping his arm. No, I will stay with you. How can you be alone here? I want to be able to sleep at home. He Jinan looked down at her. Under the lights, her stage makeup was not entirely removed, with a subtle sparkle lingering at the corners of her eyes, dazzlingly beautiful. She still wore the extravagant gown, hastily draped with a coat, contrasting sharply with the hospital's austere environment, yet exuding a peculiar, heart-softening resilience. He raised his hand, gently brushing away the non-existent fatigue beneath her eyes, his voice softening, though his resolve remained firm. Listen to me. Go home. Family members are not required to stay overnight. You would only be sitting in the corridor. You exerted yourself greatly during the competition. You must return and rest properly. I'm not tired. When Qingyao attempted to argue. Qingyao, He Jinan's tone grew more serious, imbued with an unyielding firmness. Go home. Don't make me worry about you, all right? I will keep watch over Grandpa. If anything happens, I will inform you immediately. You need to rest at home, so please listen. When Qingyao understood him well, she knew that once he spoke in such a tone, there was no room for negotiation. Observing his slightly fatigued features, her heart ached, realizing that persisting would only distract him further. Ultimately, she acquiesced, lowering her head and murmuring, fine. Just make sure to take care of yourself. Don't push yourself too hard. I will, He Jinan reassured, ruffling her hair. Send me a message when you get home. He then turned to He Jinju. Take good care of your sister. Don't worry, brother, she replied. He Jinan watched as the two entered the elevator, and once the doors closed, the facade of composure he maintained began to fade slightly, revealing a hint of hidden fatigue. He returned to the bench by the ward window, directing his gaze once more toward the elderly man lying within, his silhouette appearing increasingly upright and solitary in the vast, quiet corridor. On the way back to the Yushan Gongwan, when Qingyao and He Jinju remained silent, the air inside the car was thick with a mix of emotions. Upon arriving home, they quickly washed up. He Jinju, needing to rise early for school the next day, retreated to the guest room that had been prepared in advance for rest. However, Wen Qingyao felt no inclination to sleep. After removing her makeup and changing out of the heavy gown into comfortable loungewear, she felt an emptiness within her. The joy of her successful performance had been completely overshadowed by the sudden shock, leaving only concern for her grandfather's health and worry for He Jinan. The kitchen staff, noticing her movements, thoughtfully heated a cup of milk and prepared a light bowl of shredded chicken noodles, bringing it to her. Madam, you worked hard during the performance tonight. You should eat a little to warm your stomach before sleeping. Wen Qingyao had little appetite, yet she did not wish to disappoint the staff's kindness. So she reluctantly sat at the dining table. The broth was fragrant, and the chicken was finely shredded, but after a couple of bites, she inexplicably felt nauseous, an oily sensation rising in her throat. She suppressed it, attributing it to the emotional roller coaster of the day, and dismissed the thought, slowly sipping the milk while leaving the noodles untouched. Back in her bedroom, the vast double bed felt somewhat empty, without He Jinan's presence and warmth. The room seemed considerably colder. She lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to find sleep. Finally, she picked up her phone and aimlessly scrolled through, attempting to distract herself. Social media platforms buzzed with congratulatory messages from friends celebrating her successful performance, to which she replied briefly with gratitude, her mind elsewhere. By a curious twist of fate, she opened a frequently visited lifestyle sharing platform. The algorithm, perhaps based on her previous searches related to performances or daily preferences, had suggested a post titled, Little Joys of Pregnancy, No More Worries About Ant Flo. Wen Qingyao's heart inexplicably skipped a beat. She opened her notes, and the expectant mother joyfully shared her sense of relief from the monthly troubles that had dissipated since her pregnancy. Numerous comments below expressed envy or shared similar sentiments. Wen Qingyao murmured to herself, as if struck by a sudden realization, and abruptly sat up in bed. It dawned on her that her menstrual cycle appeared to be delayed this month. Her previously punctual cycle had inexplicably failed to arrive. Recently, she had been wholly absorbed in preparing for a competition, with the stress of rehearsals culminating in today's event, and on top of that, her grandfather's sudden illness had overwhelmed her, causing her to completely forget this matter. Her heart began to race, pounding against her chest with increasing intensity. An astonishing thought, laden with immense impact, abruptly invaded her mind. Wen Qingyao spent a sleepless night. Outside, the sky transformed from a deep, inky black to a faint gray, evolving into a pale dawn, ultimately revealing the light of morning. Throughout this process, she lay wide awake in bed, enveloped in a profound silence. As that sudden thought spiraled in her mind, magnifying and unsettling her. Pregnant? Could it be possible? She and He Jinan had always taken precautions. Yet it seemed that on one particularly stressful night, when she felt utterly defeated, he returned late, slightly inebriated, and in their mutual urgency and lack of restraint, they had perhaps not been as careful as they should have been. Immersed in her emotions and physical exhaustion, she had forgotten to remind him to take precautions afterward, and the stress of rehearsals had dulled her memory of that night. Could it have been then? How many days had her period been delayed? She strained to recall. At least 10 days had passed. Her cycle had always been as precise as a clock, never deviating more than 3 days. Fear, confusion, and anticipation entwined around her like creeping vines, tightening their grip until it became almost difficult to breathe. As the first light of dawn broke, when Xingyao quietly sat up, she listened intently. The guest room next door was silent, and He Jinju was likely still fast asleep. The entire house was enveloped in quietude. She dressed quickly, her face bare, hair casually tied up, and took her phone and a small handbag, tiptoeing down the stairs like a cat to avoid waking any early rising servants. She gently opened the front door and stepped outside. The morning air carried a chill, and she wrapped her coat tightly around herself, hurrying toward the nearby convenience store, which was open 24 hours. Her heart raced erratically in her chest, yet she endeavored to maintain a facade of calmness. In the corner of the store, she gazed at the myriad of pregnancy tests and strips, various brands and styles, feeling dizzy. She hurriedly selected a brand that promised clear results and high sensitivity. Grabbing 2 boxes, her fingertips growing slightly cold at the checkout. On her way back, she clutched the small paper bag tightly, as if it contained something scalding. Returning silently to her bedroom, she locked the door behind her. She did not turn on the bright lights, opting instead for the soft glow of the bathroom light. Carefully unwrapping the packaging and reading the instructions, she proceeded with utmost caution, her fingertips trembling with anticipation. The few minutes spent waiting for the result felt like an eternity. Standing before the sink, she observed her pallid reflection in the mirror. Finally, the designated time arrived. Taking a deep breath, she slowly picked up the white pregnancy test. 2 unmistakably clear red lines appeared. When Xingyao instinctively covered her mouth, frozen in place. Could it truly be? In this chaotic yet entirely unexpected moment. Chapter 71. Sleeping like a little lazy pig when Xingyao sat alone on the toilet in the bathroom for an extended period. Eventually, she descended the stairs and found He Jinju awake, her eyes shadowed with dark circles, clearly having not slept well. Sister-in-law, why are you up so early? Why not sleep a little longer? He Jinju asked with concern. I couldn't sleep, worrying about grandfather and Jinan, when Xingyao replied, shaking her head. Let us have breakfast quickly and then head to the hospital. The two hastily consumed a light breakfast before having the driver take them to the central hospital. Upon reaching the cardiac monitoring ward, they spotted He Jinan still seated on a bench in the corridor, his posture upright, yet fatigue was evident in his brow, and a hint of stubble adorned his chin. Hearing their footsteps, he looked up, immediately locking eyes with Wen Qingyao. Why are you here so early? He stood, his voice hoarse from the sleepless night. Didn't I tell you to rest a bit longer? I was worried about you and grandfather. Wen Qingyao quickly approached him, scrutinizing his complexion. You didn't sleep all night? Are you all right? I'm fine, He Jinan replied, gently squeezing her hand before turning to He Jinju. Juju, you should go with the driver to your class and come back in the afternoon. He Jinju, familiar with her brother's demeanor, nodded. All right, let me know if there's any news about grandfather. She then looked at Wen Qingyao. Sister-in-law, I'll take my leave now. After seeing He Jinju off, He Jinan pulled Wen Qingyao down onto the bench. Don't stand, let us sit and talk. He examined her closely. You don't look well either. Did you sleep poorly last night? Wen Qingyao felt a tightening in her chest and instinctively averted her gaze. A bit worried, didn't he sleep soundly? She hesitated, the joyous yet anxious secret nearly spilling from her lips. But upon seeing the bloodshot eyes and unmistakable weariness etched on his face, the words caught in her throat. Telling him now would only add to his concerns and worries, especially with grandfather still in the ICU. It was not the right moment. How is grandfather? She inquired, redirecting her focus to the most pressing matter. The situation stabilized somewhat during the latter half of the night. The doctor checked in the morning and said the indicators are much improved compared to last night. If things remain stable throughout the day, they might consider transferring him to a regular ward by evening. He Jinan's tone carried a hint of relief, yet his taut nerves had not completely relaxed. That is wonderful. Wen Qingyao sighed, genuinely relieved for her grandfather. At that moment, a nurse approached to inform them that they could have a brief visit. They quickly stood, donned isolation gowns, and quietly entered the monitoring room. The elderly He Laozi had awakened. Although his complexion remained pale and he was still connected to monitoring equipment, his gaze was clear. Upon seeing them, he weakly blinked and moved his lips, seemingly attempting to speak. Grandfather, don't speak. Please rest well. He Jinan leaned down, his voice soft and gentle. You'll be all right. We're all here with you. Just focus on getting better. Wen Qingyao stepped closer, gently taking his hand that lay beside him. Grandfather, please recover quickly. The elderly man looked from his grandson to his granddaughter-in-law, his eyes conveying comfort as he lightly squeezed Wen Qingyao's hand before slowly closing his eyes to rest once more. After the brief visit concluded, the two exited the monitoring room, feeling considerably lighter than before. Back in the corridor, He Jinan glanced at the time and said to Wen Qingyao, "Yao Yao, sit here for a moment. I'll go grab some coffee to perk up, and I'll bring you a cup of hot milk." "All right," Wen Qingyao nodded. Watching He Jinan's tall, yet weary figure disappear down the corridor, her hand instinctively rested gently on her still flat abdomen. In that moment, a tiny life was blossoming, a child that belonged to her and him. The impact of this news was so profound that she still felt a lingering sense of disbelief. Soon enough, He Jinan returned, presenting her with a cup of warm milk, cautioning her to be careful of the heat. "Thank you," Wen Qingyao replied as she cradled the milk in her hands, the warmth radiating throughout her being. He Jinan settled beside her, taking a sip of his black coffee before naturally wrapping his arm around her shoulders, inviting her to lean against him. "If you're tired, rest your eyes on me for a while," he murmured, his chin gently brushing against the top of her head. The familiar embrace and scent enveloped Wen Qingyao, and the fatigue from a sleepless night seemed to wash over her. Nestled in his arms, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, her own heart gradually found solace. She quietly lifted her gaze to his resolute jawline, feeling an overwhelming softness within. "Let us wait a bit longer, until Grandpa's condition improves and he's not so weary." Before sharing this joyous news with him, she contemplated, a gentle smile unconsciously gracing her lips. He Jinan seemed to sense her gaze, lowering his head to meet her eyes. Despite his weariness, his expression remained profound and attentive, imbued with a silent inquiry. Wen Qingyao simply smiled and shook her head, pressing closer into his embrace, softly voicing, "It's nothing, just that having you here is truly wonderful." In response, He Jinan tightened his hold, placing a tender kiss in her hair. "I feel the same way." The cumulative fatigue of the night surged like a tide, and Wen Qingyao soon succumbed to a deep slumber, devoid of dreams. Time passed, and she vaguely sensed her body being gently shifted, as if cradled in strong arms. Instinctively, she nestled closer to the warmth, murmuring as she remained half asleep. In her drowsy state, she could almost hear a familiar, husky voice imbued with endless affection whispering near her ear, sleeping so soundly, like a little lazy pig. That voice, so familiar, brought her immense comfort, coaxing her deeper into the realm of dreams. When she awakened once more, she found herself beneath the familiar chandelier of her bedroom in Yushan Gongguan, lying on a soft, comfortable bed. Outside the window, the evening sky was painted in hues of sunset, casting a warm, gentle filter over the room. Wen Qingyao blinked, her awareness gradually returning. A slight movement revealed a heavy, warm arm draped across her waist, accompanied by the steady rhythm of deep breaths behind her. Cautiously, she turned around. He Jinan lay behind her, facing her. He seemed to have just succumbed to slumber not long ago, but compared to the tension he carried in the hospital, his features were now completely relaxed, the traces of fatigue softened in sleep, although the stubble on his chin was more pronounced, exuding a rare sense of languor and vulnerability. Wen Qingyao's heart instantly swelled, an indescribable blend of tenderness and bittersweetness enveloping her. He must be utterly exhausted. She held her breath, quietly observing his sleeping visage, tracing the outline of his thick brows, the high bridge of his nose, and finally resting her gaze on his slightly parted lips. An impulse surged within her, prompting her to raise herself slightly and plant a feather-like kiss upon his lips. The moment their lips met, her heart raced as if she had committed an audacious misdeed. Just as she settled back down, feigning nonchalance, she noticed He Jinan's eyelashes fluttering, slowly opening his eyes. Initially, his gaze was somewhat dazed, but it quickly sharpened. Reflecting her image within his deep, clear eyes, his voice hoarse from sleep. Chapter 72. Congratulations, my dear. Are you awake? His arms instinctively tightened around her, drawing her closer. Wen Qingyao replied, her cheeks flushing slightly, grateful for the dim light concealing her embarrassment. When did we come back? How's Grandpa? Mom and Dad returned from Yucheng and arrived at the hospital around noon. I saw you sleeping so soundly that I didn't want to wake you. Grandpa's condition is stable now. He has been moved to a regular ward, and with Mom, Dad, and Juju keeping watch. I thought it best to bring you home to rest first, He Jinan explained, his voice clearer than before. Mom and Dad are back? That's good. Wen Qingyao sighed in relief, knowing that having elders around would help share the burden. The two embraced in silence, relishing the moment of tranquility and warmth. After a while, Wen Qingyao softly spoke, He Jinan. In a couple of days, when Grandpa is feeling a bit better, could you spare some time to accompany me to see my parents? Her voice carried a subtle plea and a hint of excitement. Without hesitation, He Jinan replied, Of course, we should visit your in-laws. He assumed she wished to pay respect to her late parents. However, Wen Qingyao gently shook her head, her lips curving into a mysterious and tender smile. It's not just that. Oh, He Jinan's curiosity was piqued, as he lowered his head to nuzzle her hair. What else do you wish to tell them? Snuggling closer into his embrace, her cheek resting against his chest, Her voice soft yet filled with sweetness and determination, she replied. It's a secret. You'll know when the time comes. She longed to share, in a more formal and serene moment, the joyous news of new life with him and convey it to her parents in heaven. Jin Nan refrained from probing further, and after a moment, his deep voice resonated above her head. After sleeping all day, are you hungry? At his question, Wen Qingyao realized her stomach felt empty, and she nodded earnestly. A little. Let us get something to eat. Jin Nan gently patted her back and stood up first. Despite his own fatigue, he appeared sharper after resting, though his gaze softened instinctively when directed at her. He walked to the wardrobe and soon returned, draping a soft knitted cardigan over Wen Qingyao's shoulders, who was still clad in her nightgown. It's chilly in the evening, or this. The warmth of his scent enveloped her as she wrapped the cardigan around herself. Dinner had been thoughtfully prepared by the servants, laid out on the table in the small dining room below. Several light, yet exquisite dishes alongside nourishing congee. Jin Nan personally served her a bowl of congee, meticulously arranging the dishes. Wen Qingyao, genuinely hungry, ate with care, taking small bites. Jin Nan ate little, spending most of the time watching her, occasionally moving his chopsticks. After finishing, he did not usher her back to rest immediately. Instead, he took her hand and led her to the sofa in the living room. Sit down, he gently instructed. Wen Qingyao, somewhat puzzled, complied. Jin Nan produced a palm-sized velvet box from his suit pocket. Her heart skipped a beat. Jin Nan knelt before her, opening the box. Inside, instead of a ring, lay an exquisitely crafted anklet. The delicate platinum chain was intricately woven with fine patterns, adorned with a modest yet dazzling diamond that shimmered under the light. This is, Wen Qingyao exclaimed, her eyes widening in surprise. A gift to celebrate your award in the competition. Jin Nan lifted his gaze to her, his eyes profound and imbued with a subtle hint of guilt, intertwined with an abundance of affection. I apologize for not arriving in time yesterday. My little girl has earned such a significant honor. She rightfully deserves the finest reward. He carefully extracted the anklet, his warm fingers gently encircling her delicate ankle. Wen Qingyao instinctively recoiled slightly, her cheeks flushing, yet she did not pull away. Jin Nan lowered his head, his expression earnest and intent, meticulously fastening the chain around her fair ankle. The cool metal brushed against her skin, soon warmed by the heat of his fingertips. The petite diamond hung perfectly beside her slender joint, swaying gently with her subtle movements, shimmering with brilliance. It suits you beautifully, he remarked, his tone laced with satisfaction. The contrast of her porcelain skin, the exquisite chain, and the dazzling diamond formed a breathtaking tableau. He raised his eyes, gazing into hers. Congratulations, my dear, you are my pride. Wen Qingyao looked at the man squatting before her, this formidable figure who commanded storms outside, yet in this moment, was willing to bend down for her, tenderly and sincerely adorning her ankle with the anklet, uttering such heartfelt words. The anklet felt as if it bore a scorching warmth, seeping into her heart. That bittersweet warmth surged within her, nearly overwhelming her. Her nose tinged with a slight ache. Her eyes glistening, yet her lips curved upward. She extended her hands, softly wrapping them around his neck, her voice choked yet filled with joy. Thank you, Jin Nan. I truly love it, very, very much. It was not just the precious, exquisite gift she cherished, but the thoughtfulness he exhibited. The way he held her dear in his heart. Jin Nan, buoyed by her embrace, rose and enveloped her in his arms, chuckling softly, as long as you like it. The night deepened outside, while warmth enveloped the room. His palm caressed her back tenderly, his fingertips radiating warmth. He bent down, his nose affectionately brushing against her ear, his breath warm. Yao Yao. His voice was husky, laced with lingering drowsiness and burgeoning desire. His arm around her waist tightened, drawing her soft form closer against him. Wen Qingyao's heart raced, instantly grasping his intent. Normally, she might have reveled in his warmth, but at this moment, her hands, almost uncontrollably, gently grazed her lower abdomen. Just as his warm lips were about to land on her neck, she slightly turned her head, her voice soft and delicate, with an intentionally prolonged, drowsy tone. Jin Nan, I think I might still be a bit tired and lack strength. She said this, even stifling a small yawn in a compliant manner, her eyelashes drooping to conceal a hint of vulnerability, resting her cheek against his chest. Adopting a posture of dependence and fatigue. Can we go to bed early today? Jin Nan halted his movements. He slightly raised his head, his gaze scrutinizing her face. Her cheeks retained a rosy hue from waking, yet there was indeed a barely perceptible weariness in her eyes. Remembering her worries from yesterday, her restless night, and the long hours spent at the hospital today, he noted her diminished appetite at dinner. His earlier desires quickly succumbed to a wave of concern. He felt no doubt, only a tinge of regret for his untimely yearning. His arm relaxed a little, shifting to gently caress her hair, his tone revealing unmasked care. It is my fault. I did not consider your fatigue. He placed a tender kiss atop her head, his voice low and soothing. Then I shall not press you. Let us retire upstairs. Shall we? Wen Qingyao felt a wave of relief wash over her, mingled with a faint sense of guilt. She voluntarily wrapped her arms around his waist. softly saying, "Just hold me while you sleep, will you?" Jin Nan chuckled softly, evidently pleased with her gentle dependence. All right. He lifted her effortlessly, his movements steady and gentle. Wen Qingyao clung tightly to his neck. He securely held her in his embrace, ascending the stairs step by step, returning to the bedroom. He meticulously tucked her in, only lying down beside her afterward, fulfilling her wish by drawing her entirely into his arms, her back resting against his chest. His warm hand instinctively resting on her abdomen, the heat radiating continuously. "Sleep now," he whispered in her ear. She closed her eyes, gently placing her hands atop his that lay on her abdomen. Just a little longer, she thought to herself. Soon he will know he is to become a father. What will his reaction be? This thought brought a sweet smile to her lips, and she soon drifted into a deep slumber within the comforting embrace. Chapter 73. Morning sickness. The following morning, sunlight streamed through the sheer curtains into the bedroom. When Qingyao awoke, Jin Nan was no longer beside her, but his warmth and scent lingered in the space next to her. She touched her abdomen, a complex feeling stirring within her. As she descended the stairs, she found Jin Nan seated at the dining table, engrossed in financial news on his tablet, a cup of black coffee at his side. Upon noticing her, he set down the tablet, his tone gentle. "You're awake? Come have breakfast. Afterward, we will visit grandfather at the hospital." The breakfast spread was lavish, comprising light and nutritious fare, evidently tailored to accommodate her preferences and health. Though Jin Nan was not overly talkative, he attentively pushed forward the snacks he thought she might enjoy, along with warmed milk. "You look a bit pale. Did you not sleep well?" He scrutinized her face. Wen Qingyao instinctively touched her cheek, forcing a smile. "No, I slept very well. Perhaps a little puffy from just waking up." Jin Nan regarded her for a few seconds, refraining from further inquiry, simply stating, "Eat more." On the way to the hospital, soothing music flowed through the car. Jin Nan drove steadily, occasionally sharing updates on grandfather's latest condition, mentioning that the elderly gentleman was recovering well and in good spirits. Wen Qingyao listened quietly, the atmosphere filled with sweetness and warmth. As they pushed open the hospital room door, alongside Jin Nan's parents and younger sister Zhu, a slender, graceful figure also came into view. Cui Enyu, dressed in an elegant cream-colored suit, she sat beside the hospital bed, leaning slightly, conversing softly with grandfather He. Upon hearing the door open, she turned her head, her eyes visibly brightening upon seeing Jin Nan, the radiance dimming slightly only when it met Wen Qingyao, transforming into a poised and gracious smile. "Jin Nan, you're here." She stood, her voice melodious and inviting, her gaze naturally landing on Wen Qingyao. "So this is Qingyao? I hardly recognized you after such a long time. I often hear Aunt speak of you. You are indeed beautiful. Congratulations to you both." Wen Qingyao felt as though something had gently pricked her heart, a bittersweet sensation washing over her. Cui Enyu's demeanor was impeccable, warm and natural, as if they were merely old friends reunited after a long absence. As if her marriage to Jin Nan was the most ordinary affair. Yet, Wen Qingyao could sense the subtle scrutiny beneath that smile, and the fleeting emotion in her eyes when she glanced at Jin Nan. "Thank you, Miss Cui." Wen Qingyao endeavored to present her smile as natural as possible. "Grandfather, how are you feeling today?" Grandpa He appeared to be in much better spirits, cheerfully inviting them to sit down. Jin Nan casually draped his arm around Wen Qingyao's shoulders, guiding her to the bedside while inquiring about Grandpa's health. Cui Enyu stood nearby, observing the unintentional display of care and intimacy that Jin Nan exhibited towards Wen Qingyao. Her smile remained flawless, yet the fingers gripping the water cup tightened slightly. Mu smiled at Wen Qingyao, saying, "Yao Yao, thank you for your hard work yesterday, staying up for so long. Enyu just returned to the country, and fortunately, she was here when he fell ill. Grandpa has been hospitalized, and she made a special trip to see him this morning. You are of similar age, so you should find common ground to chat." Wen Qingyao could only smile and nod in response, saying, "Miss Cui is very considerate." Jin Nan exchanged a few words with his father regarding company matters, but his attention quickly returned to Wen Qingyao as he softly asked, "Would you like some water? Or perhaps to sit down for a moment?" He recalled her mentioning her fatigue the previous day. This subtle concern appeared as genuine thoughtfulness in the eyes of others. Wen Qingyao noticed a flicker in Cui Enyu's gaze before she nonchalantly turned her head to converse with Mu. In that moment, a wave of bitterness and disappointment surged within her. She had previously deceived herself into believing that their relationship was merely transactional. Yet, at this instant, she vividly recognized that she had, unbeknownst to herself, fallen in love with Jin Nan. His proximity quickened her heartbeat, his gentleness brought her joy, and the presence of another outstanding woman, clearly interested in him, filled her with panic and sorrow. The courage she had mustered to reveal her pregnancy dissipated like mist. What significance would this child hold now? Would it merely serve to bind a man who perhaps had his heart elsewhere? How much of Jin Nan's kindness stemmed from their marital obligation, and how much was sincere? He had never professed love for her, yet he had once mentioned letting her go in 2 years. Now that Cui Enyu had returned, would he? She dared not delve further into her thoughts. The secret joy brought by new life was overshadowed by a profound sense of unease and inferiority. She felt like a thief who had stolen someone else's happiness. now forced to retreat as the rightful owner returned. This child should not become an obstacle at this juncture, and he might not even anticipate it. I'm fine, not tired. Wen Qingyao said, lowering her eyelashes to conceal her emotions. When she raised her head again, a seemingly carefree smile adorned her face. I'm just glad to see Grandpa feeling better. He Jin perceptibly sensed her momentary low spirits, furrowing his brow as he quietly inquired, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Wen Qingyao's heart tightened at the thought of being seen through. She immediately summoned a brighter smile, even playfully linking her arm with his. "Really, I'm fine. I'm just happy for Grandpa. You shouldn't always treat me like a child, as if I tire easily." Her performance was convincing. And while he Jin noticed a hint of something unusual beneath her smile, he was momentarily appeased by her rare display of affection. He suppressed his doubts, attributing her earlier reticence to the presence of many people, and gently squeezed the hand she had entwined in his arm. Wen Qingyao maintained her smile. Yet her heart felt cold. She resolved that for the time being, no one would know about her pregnancy, at least not in the presence of Cui Enyu. After spending some time in the hospital, Grandpa he appeared weary, prompting everyone to tactfully take their leave to allow the elder to rest. Once outside the ward, he Jin turned to Wen Qingyao and said, "I am heading directly to the office. Would you like to accompany me?" Instinctively, she glanced at Cui Enyu, who was softly chatting with Himu. That elegant figure tightened her chest. She wished to avoid the potential awkwardness of staying, yet did not want to appear as if she were deliberately avoiding them, so she nodded and softly replied, "All right." The journey to the office was quieter than before. He Jin seemed occupied with a work call, quietly discussing matters. Wen Qingyao leaned against the car window, gazing at the fleeting scenery outside, her hand unconsciously resting on her abdomen. Though it remained flat, a peculiar sense of connection had quietly taken root, mingled with an indescribable anxiety. Upon reaching He Jinnan's office, he instructed his secretary to prepare some refreshments and fruit for Wen Qingyao, then pointed to a comfortable sofa by the window. "You can rest here, read, or do something else while I attend to a few documents." Wen Qingyao retrieved the sheet music from her bag and quietly settled into a corner of the sofa, flipping through the pages. Sunlight streamed through the large floor-to-ceiling windows, enveloping her in a soft glow. Occasionally, He Jin would look up from his documents, and the serene image before him softened a corner of his heart. After a while, the secretary entered with a plate of exquisite pastries and a glass of freshly squeezed juice. The pastries, just baked, emitted a rich buttery aroma with a hint of sweetness. On a typical day, Wen Qingyao would find them tempting, but at that moment, the scent triggered a sudden wave of nausea. Her stomach churned, and discomfort surged in her throat. Wen Qingyao's complexion shifted slightly as she forced herself to suppress the urge to vomit, picking up the juice to quell her queasiness with its mildly sour, refreshing taste. She dared not look at He Jin, fearing he would notice her distress. Instead, she lowered her eyelashes, pretending to focus intently on the sheet music, her fingers gripping the edges of the pages tightly. He Jin seemed oblivious, merely looking up to ask, "Not to your liking? Would you prefer something else?" "No. It's fine. I might have eaten too much this morning and just am not hungry." Wen Qingyao quickly shook her head, forcing a nonchalant smile. He Jin regarded her for a moment before resuming his work, and Wen Qingyao secretly breathed a sigh of relief, though her heart felt heavier. Such careful concealment could only last so long. She cherished the tranquility and companionship he provided in this moment, even if this happiness felt as fragile as stolen time, easily shattered. In the following days, He Jin appeared busier than usual, yet he consistently returned home for dinner, remaining attentive to her. The encounter with Cui Enyu was merely a minor episode. One day, with clear skies, He Jin surprisingly opted not to go to the office. "The weather is lovely today. I'll accompany you to visit your parents," he suggested, referring to Wen Qingyao's deceased parents. Wen Qingyao was momentarily taken aback, a complex warmth swelling within her. He remembered the day she mentioned for commemorating them and had voluntarily offered to accompany her. This thoughtfulness moved her, yet deepened her melancholy. The cemetery lay on the outskirts, serene and adorned with verdant pines and cypress trees. The car came to a gentle stop, and He Jin retrieved the flowers and offerings he had prepared earlier from the trunk, his movements practiced and natural. Wen Qingyao followed behind, watching his upright figure, her heart a tumult of emotions. He consistently recalls these intricate details, this silent concern that envelopes her like a delicate web, ensnaring her in its embrace, making it difficult for her to extricate herself. The elderly caretaker of the cemetery evidently recognizes He Jin, greeting him with a smile. "Mr. He, you have arrived." His gaze flitted over Wen Qingyao, tinged with a hint of benevolent curiosity. "Isn't this Miss Wen?" "This is my wife, Wen Qingyao," He Jin naturally introduced, gently wrapping his arm around Wen Qingyao's shoulder, drawing her closer. "Ah, so this is Mrs. He," the old man responded with a look of realization and warmth. "Mr. and Mrs. Wen must be at peace knowing that you have established a family and that your daughter has found such a good home. Mr. He visits every year. Rain or shine, truly commendable." "Every year?" Wen Qingyao suddenly lifted her head to gaze at He Jin, her eyes wide with astonishment. She had always believed that it was Gu Yanqi who placed the flowers on her parents' memorial on their death anniversary. Upon meeting her shocked gaze, He Jin-nan maintained a calm demeanor, though a subtle complexity flickered in his profound eyes. He softly acknowledged with a hum, offering no further explanation, and nodded to the caretaker before guiding Wen Qingyao towards the burial site. Her heart raced erratically. It was not Gu Yanqi, but He Jin-nan instead? Why? What prompted him to do this? Had he been silently honoring her parents even before their marriage, even while she was still entangled with Gu Yanqi? A multitude of questions surged through her mind, leaving her in a state of turmoil. She allowed He Jin-nan to lead her to her parents' gravestone. The gravestone was impeccably clean, adorned with a fresh bouquet of white chrysanthemums, evidently arranged by He Jin-nan in advance. He placed the flowers he had brought alongside them, then quietly stood to the side, granting Wen Qingyao space. As she gazed at the gentle faces of her parents captured in the photograph on the gravestone, tears welled in her eyes. She crouched down, gently caressing the cold stone. A myriad of words lodged in her throat, yet none escaped her lips. She yearned to tell her parents that she had married, that she had wed this seemingly aloof yet attentive man beside her. She longed to share that she might have given them a grandchild. Yet, as the words hovered on the verge of utterance, they were swallowed by an overwhelming sense of unease. He Jin-nan stood behind her, observing her slightly trembling shoulders. After a moment of silence, he crouched down, resting his hand gently on her back, his deep voice imbued with a soothing strength. Speak to your parents. They would certainly like to hear your voice. Wen Qingyao sniffled, striving to regain her composure. She had many questions for He Jin-nan, but the moment was clearly not right. She turned to the gravestone, softly recounting her recent experiences, assuring her parents that she was well and that they need not worry. She deliberately sidestepped any mention of her physical changes and inner turmoil. The ritual was quiet and brief. Upon rising, He Jin-nan observed Wen Qingyao's still pale visage and the fatigue beneath her eyes, furrowing his brow. Are you tired? Shall we return? The atmosphere in the car on the way back was even more somber than before. Wen Qingyao leaned against the car window, staring outside, her mind in turmoil. The revelation of He Jin-nan's long-standing tributes to her parents felt like a heavy stone cast into the already turbulent waters of her heart, stirring up greater waves. What did this signify? Was it merely an act of familial duty, or was there a deeper motivation? Stealing a glance at the focused profile of He Jin-nan as he drove, she noted the taut lines of his jaw. He seemed to sense her gaze. Turning to her with a gentle tone, what is it? Why do you keep staring at me? Feel free to ask anything. Wen Qingyao shook her head, longing for answers yet fearing that they might not align with her hopes. If his kindness was solely born of obligation and ethics, where would that leave her feelings and the potential child within her? Especially as the image of Tsue and you frequently invaded her thoughts. The elegant and composed woman, of comparable social standing, who seemed to still harbor feelings for He Jin-nan, felt like a thorn embedded in her heart. As they entered the city, He Jin-nan's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and answered with a businesslike tone, speak. It seemed the caller was reporting some matter. As He Jin-nan's brow gradually furrowed, his tone growing serious, I understand. I will head over immediately. After ending the call, he turned to Wen Qingyao. There is an urgent matter at the company that requires my immediate attention. Shall I take you home first? That's not necessary. Wen Qingyao instinctively declined. You should go directly to the company. I can get off at the intersection ahead. I wanted to browse the nearby bookstore. She needed a solitary space to process the information she had learned today and her chaotic emotions. He Jin-nan studied her for a few moments, as if he wished to say something, but ultimately nodded. Very well, take care. After you finish, have the driver pick you up. He smoothly halted the car at the intersection. Wen Qingyao unfastened her seatbelt and murmured, thank you, Jin-nan. The term slipped from her lips, laced with a subtle unfamiliarity. He Jin-nan's hand on the steering wheel paused slightly, his deep gaze fixed on her face as though seeking to unravel all her emotions in that moment. Wen Qingyao felt her heart race under his scrutiny and hurriedly opened the car door to exit, watching the Maybach merge into traffic until it vanished from sight. She exhaled deeply, yet felt an even greater emptiness within. She wandered aimlessly down the street, bypassing the bookstore and instead veering into a tranquil park at the heart of the city. Sunlight filtered through the sparse leaves, casting warmth yet failing to dispel the chill within her soul. Sitting on a bench, her hand instinctively rested on her abdomen. The child that already existed felt like both a sweet and burdensome weight. Qingyao? What a coincidence. Wen Qingyao looked up to see Tsue and Yu standing a few steps away, her face adorned with a perfectly measured expression of surprise. Accompanying her was a middle-aged woman dressed in fine attire, exuding an air of grace. Hey foreign. Wen Qingyao quickly rose, feeling a bit awkward as she greeted. Mother. Miss Tsue. Hey foreign. Upon seeing Wen Qingyao, smiled warmly. Yao Yao, why are you here all alone? Where's Jin-nan? He had an urgent matter at the company and went there. I was just taking a stroll. Wen Qingyao endeavored to make her voice sound casual. Tsue and Yu stepped forward with a playful tone, linking arms with Hey foreign. Auntie, look at you. Only having eyes for your daughter-in-law. You dragged me along to shop. And upon encountering Qingyao, you've forgotten all about me? Her words sounded like a jest, Yet her gaze held an unmistakable provocation directed at Wen Qingyao. Hey Foreign lightly patted Sui and Yu's hand, chuckling. You child, are you feeling jealous? And Yu has just returned to the country and is unfamiliar with many places. I am merely accompanying her. Turning to Wen Qingyao, she continued. Since we have met, would you like to join us? We could have dinner together in the evening. And once Jinan finishes, he can join us as well. Thank you. But no, mother, Wen Qingyao quickly declined. I am a bit tired and would like to head home to rest. She found it exceedingly difficult to face Cui Enyu, particularly in the presence of Madame He. The invisible comparison and pressure left her nearly breathless. Madame He observed her complexion and expressed concern. Your complexion seems rather poor. Have you been too tired lately? Make sure to rest well and have the kitchen prepare some nourishing soup for you. Thank you, Mom. I will, Wen Qingyao replied, lowering her head to evade Cui Enyu's gaze. After a hurried farewell, she almost fled the park. Chapter 75. Why does the heart hurt? Wen Qingyao boarded the bus alone, selecting a window seat. Unbeknownst to her, He Jinan, masked and hatted, quietly followed her onto the bus, settling into an inconspicuous corner at the back. His gaze remained fixed on the slender, desolate figure ahead, his heart swelling with a mix of sorrow and anxiety. Her recent odd behavior and the distant manner in which she referred to him as Jinan Gu upon disembarking filled him with a profound unease. At that moment, Wen Qingyao's phone vibrated within her bag. She retrieved it to find a familiar online avatar, belonging to a netizen who had often lent her an ear and offered advice during her times of confusion. "En, how have you been? It feels like ages since we last chatted." Wen Qingyao's eyes misted at the sight of the message, her fingertips hesitating over the screen as she typed. Yao Yao. It has indeed been a while. I got married. After sending the message, she paused and added with a touch of self-deprecating bitterness. Yao Yao. Isn't that a surprise? You should congratulate me. In the back of the bus, He Jinan glanced at another phone that buzzed with a message, his brow furrowing. Her tone was unsettlingly off. En, congratulations. But your tone suggests you're not very happy? Wen Qingyao, upon reading the reply, felt tears welling in her eyes. The stranger's perceptiveness disarmed her defenses. Yao Yao, perhaps. But more than that, I feel lost. You might not believe it, but I am considering whether to get a divorce. Boom. Divorce? Why so sudden? Had he upset her in some way? He Jinan felt as though his heart had been struck by a heavy blow, pain surging through him. He nearly stood up to confront her, demanding clarity. Yet he loosened his tie, forcing himself to regain composure. He typed with difficulty. Why? Is he unkind to you? Or has he done something to hurt you? He fixated on her silhouette ahead, fearful of missing any reaction. Wen Qingyao shook her head, as if he could see her. Yao Yao. No, he is wonderful, truly wonderful. He remembers all my preferences, appears when I am in need, surprises me frequently, and tends to my emotions, making me often feel as though I am in a dream. Yao Yao. But he does not love me. I am acutely aware that he married me perhaps out of duty, sympathy, or merely to appease the elders in his family. He has always had someone else in his heart. He Jinan's pupils dilated, his breath hitching. Someone else? When had he ever harbored feelings for another? Since his youth, he had only held Wen Qingyao in his heart. He watched her grieve for Gu Yanqi, saw her family endure turmoil, and chose to protect her silently, believing that time would help her understand. He never anticipated that such a profound misunderstanding would arise. En, how can you be certain he does not love you? Perhaps he simply struggles to express it? Or could it be that the someone else is a misunderstanding? Wen Qingyao let out a bitter smile. A misunderstanding? Cui Enyu's radiant, confident face, the uncontainable affection she directed toward He Jinan, and the familiarity that permeated the He family's words. Was that merely a misunderstanding? Yao Yao. It is not a misunderstanding. That person has appeared. She is exceptional and perfectly matched with him. I can see it. I feel like an unwelcome intruder. This marriage has been a mistake from the very beginning. Now that the rightful person has returned, I should step aside. Moreover, she instinctively placed her hand over her flat abdomen, leaving her next thought untyped. Moreover, there was now the unexpected arrival of this child. If he did not love her, would this child become a burden to him? To bind an unloving man with a child was a tragic folly. Yao Yao. Never mind, I won't speak of this further. Thank you for listening to my complaints. I am about to reach my stop. As the bus came to a halt, Wen Qingyao stowed her phone and rose to disembark. He Jinan remained frozen in place, watching her retreating figure, overwhelmed by an immense ache and fear that threatened to engulf him. Never had he regretted so deeply as he did in that moment. Regretting his silence, regretting that he had chosen to keep her by his side through a hasty marriage, which had only plunged her into profound insecurity and self-doubt. Did she truly believe he loved another? He Jinan scoffed at himself. How inept he was to allow her to harbor such a misconception. When Wen Qingyao returned to Yushan Mansion, the sky had turned a dull gray. In the vast house, the only sound was that of the housekeeper, Wu Ma, bustling in the kitchen, amplifying the unsettling silence. Madam, you're back. Wu Ma emerged from the kitchen, her face adorned with her customary warm smile. What would you like for dinner? The Serge is called to say he has social engagements this evening and will not be home for dinner. Wen Qingyao's slight flicker of anticipation deflated like a balloon pricked by a needle, vanishing silently. She forced a smile that she knew looked unappealing. It's fine. Well, Ma, I'm not very hungry. Just make something simple. I'm craving something sour and spicy. Subconsciously, she caressed her still flat abdomen, feeling an odd pull that made her yearn for bold flavors. Sour and spicy sounds delightful. I'll prepare a hot and sour soup and stir-fry some sour bamboo shoots with beef. How does that sound? Wuma eagerly suggested. That sounds perfect, thank you. Wuma. When Qingyao nodded, dragging her weary feet upstairs. The master bedroom remained impeccably tidy, its cool-toned decor reflecting the aloofness he Jin and often exuded. Yet beneath his rigid exterior, she knew resided a warm and passionate heart. When Qingyao removed her outerwear and stepped into the bathroom, letting the warm water wash over her body as she sought to clear the tumultuous thoughts swirling in her mind. In the steamy haze, memories began to flicker before her eyes. Cui Enyu, that girl of privilege, bright and self-assured, who had grown up alongside He Jinan, was the one deemed his perfect match by all. She, when Qingyao, was merely a burden taken on by the He family out of a sense of duty when the Wen family fell from grace and her parents passed away. He Jinan's decision to marry her was likely simply because she was the most suitable choice, one approved by the elders, fulfilling a significant responsibility through the most binding of ties. He was lovely, so much so that one could scarcely find fault. He remembered her menstrual cycles, often having Wu Ma prepare brown sugar water in advance. Whenever she mentioned her fondness for a certain limited edition perfume, it would soon appear on her vanity. When she awoke from nightmares in the dead of night, he would instinctively pull her into his embrace, soothing her with gentle pats on the back. But were these kindnesses born of love? Or were they merely manifestations of his good upbringing and strong sense of duty? Especially now that Cui Enyu had returned. When Qingyao increasingly leaned towards believing it was the latter, she resembled a Cinderella who had inadvertently slipped into another's glass slipper. As the midnight bell tolled, all would inevitably revert to their rightful places. Now, the true princess had returned, and her role as a temporary actress must come to an end. When Qingyao's hand gently rested upon her abdomen, where an unexpected little life was being nurtured, the arrival of this child was entirely unforeseen, more akin to a beautiful mistake. If He Jinan did not love her, then this child would merely become another heavy burden and shackle for him. The thought of binding an unloving man with a child to sustain a marriage devoid of authenticity was, upon reflection, profoundly tragic. Once the notion of divorce crystallized, it grew wildly like a rampant vine. It was better to endure a brief pain than a prolonged one. Before he could speak, she would take the initiative to leave, preserving at least a semblance of dignity. Yet, why did her heart ache so? It felt as if it were being sliced by a dull blade, one agonizing cut at a time. When had she deeply enshrined this taciturn man, who cared for her in countless unseen ways, within her heart? Perhaps it began with his silent appearances during her moments of unawareness, quietly providing her with a shield. Her yearning for his warmth was her own folly. When Qingyao turned off the faucet, wrapping herself tightly in a bath towel, the reflection in the mirror revealed a pale face with reddened eyes. She inhaled deeply, reminding herself, when Qingyao, it is time to awaken. You must not linger in this dream woven from tenderness any longer. Restoring the position of Mrs. He to its rightful owner was the only action she could take, and indeed, her final choice. Chapter 76. He Jinan, let us divorce. She stepped out of the bathroom, and the night had deepened outside. Downstairs, Wilma must have prepared a tangy and delectable meal, yet she felt that the sourness had already permeated her heart. Bitter and acrid, this home would soon cease to be hers. The resolve to divorce weighed heavily upon Wen Qingyao's heart, yet it also birthed a kind of solitary courage akin to a carnival of the apocalypse. Since she had decided to leave, in these final days, she would greedily absorb some warmth, leaving behind memories that could comfort her in the years to come. She longed to love him sincerely, even if he remained unaware, even if it was merely a farewell ceremony for herself. Thus, when familiar, slightly disheveled footsteps echoed in the hallway late at night, Wen Qingyao did not retreat to the bedroom as usual, but chose to descend instead. He Jinan leaned against the hallway wall, his tie loosened, his gaze foggy with inebriation, exuding a potent scent of alcohol. He seemed momentarily taken aback upon seeing Wen Qingyao descend, a flicker of complex emotion flashing in his eyes before being shrouded by his drunkenness. Yao Yao? His voice was hoarse. Wuma prepared a hangover soup. I'll heat it up for you. Wen Qingyao softly replied as she turned and entered the kitchen. Her slender silhouette appeared particularly fragile under the light, yet it emanated a quiet determination. He Jinan did not refuse. He silently followed her to the dining room, his gaze never straying from her busy figure. He watched as she skillfully reheated the soup, observing her carefully place the bowl in front of him, the steam blurring their expressions. Be careful, it's hot. She handed him a spoon. He Jinan did not take the spoon. Instead, he leaned forward, drinking a mouthful directly from her hand. Then he lifted his eyes, gazing intently at her. Can you feed me? His tone bore the playful stubbornness of intoxication, tinged with an undeniable hint of affection. Wen Qingyao's heart skipped a beat. She offered no rebuttal, obediently feeding him spoonful by spoonful until the bowl was empty. The atmosphere was so quiet that the only sound was the gentle clinking of the spoon against the bowl, creating an oddly excessive harmony. After finishing the soup, He Jinan stood up, slightly swaying. I smell of alcohol. I feel unwell. I'll help you bathe. Wen Qingyao mustered all her courage to utter this sentence. In the past, even when he returned home intoxicated from social engagements, he rarely allowed her such intimate care. He Jinan looked at her deeply, his gaze dark, and finally nodded. All right. The bathroom was filled with steam. He Jinan leaned against the edge of the bathtub, eyes closed, appearing quite fatigued. Wen Qingyao rolled up her sleeves and gently wiped his shoulders and back with a damp towel. Her movements were tender and meticulous, imbued with an almost reverent affection. She could feel his taut muscles gradually relax beneath her touch. The sound of running water drowned out her rapid heartbeat. This moment of intimacy felt like stolen time. Each second was both bittersweet and poignant. Suddenly, He Jinan grasped her wrist, his palm warm and his grip firm. Wen Qingyao was startled, meeting his open eyes. They lacked their usual calm composure, swirling with emotions she could scarcely comprehend, intense enough to unsettle her. Wife. He called her, his voice low and raspy, imbued with a magnetic quality. Why are you so well-behaved today? He inquired, his gaze fixated upon her, capturing every subtle change in her expression. Wen Qingyao's heart skipped a beat. She feigned composure, lowering her lashes. You've had too much to drink. It's only right to take care of you. He Jinan was silent for a moment before suddenly raising his other hand, his fingertips lightly brushing against her cheek, cool and damp with water, yet electrifying. Be a little more obedient. A faint, almost seductive smile graced his lips. Would you kiss me? Wen Qingyao froze. Such a request, right before the impending divorce, felt too abrupt and intimate. She gazed at his striking visage, and an overwhelming sadness and resolution surged within her. Just this once, let it be a farewell. She closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and leaned down to softly press her lips against his. His lips were warm and moist from the alcohol, the sensation astonishingly soft. The kiss was light and brief, yet it stirred tumultuous waves within her heart. Just as she intended to pull away, He Jinan suddenly grasped the back of her head, deepening the kiss. It was no mere brush. It bore the weight of long-suppressed desire, almost predatory, filled with the essence of intoxication and an indescribable pain. Wen Qingyao felt her body weaken beneath his kiss, her mind gasping for air, nearly succumbing to this sudden fervor. In a moment of passion, He Jinan's arms tightened, lifting her slightly off the ground, her loungewear soaked by the water. The temperature of their intimacy escalated, teetering on the brink of losing control. However, at the last moment, He Jinan abruptly halted. He pressed his forehead against hers, breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling. He closed his eyes, seemingly grappling with something. After a pause, he released her, his voice unusually hoarse. All right, it's late. You should rest first. I can manage myself. Wen Qingyao stood frozen, her face still flushed. While her heart felt frigid, he had pushed her away. Even in his drunken haze, amidst the throes of passion, he maintained a final boundary. Did this not validate her suspicions? In his heart, he had always reserved space for another, unwilling to entangle himself further with her. Very well, she responded softly, her voice trembling slightly. She dared not look at him, hastily adjusting her damp collar before exiting the bathroom. The following morning, Wen Qingyao awoke feeling an emptiness within her. The space beside her was icy and perfectly smooth, as if the man who had intoxicated her with his kisses and nearly suffocated her the previous night had never existed. As she reached out to touch the coldness, her heart sank further. Did he not even wish to sleep beside her? Was last night's nearly uncontrollable kiss a source of guilt for him towards the one he truly cherished, prompting him to maintain a deliberate distance to honor Cuiyanyu? This thought pierced her heart like a cold needle, replacing all hesitation and reluctance with a sense of near-desperate sorrow. Perhaps this was for the best. At least it solidified her resolve to leave, freeing her from any unrealistic illusions. She rose from the bed, and while grooming, she gazed at her pale reflection in the mirror, forcing a reassuring smile. From a small locked drawer of her vanity, she retrieved a document she had long prepared, the divorce agreement. Holding the seemingly weightless yet burdensome paper, she took a deep breath and descended the stairs. Wilma was setting the breakfast table in the dining room. Upon seeing her, she smiled and greeted, "Good morning, madam. The sir is in his study. He seems to have risen early." Wen Qingyao's heart tightened. Had he spent the entire night awake, avoiding her? Nodding at Wilma, she did not pause and walked directly towards the study. The door was slightly ajar, and a faint scent of tobacco wafted out. He Jinan rarely smoked at home unless faced with something exceedingly troubling. Wen Qingyao's heart sank further. Had her mere presence become a burden to him? She gently pushed the door open. He Jinan was indeed seated behind the desk, clad in simple loungewear, a half-burned cigarette nestled between his fingers. Morning light streamed through the window, casting a stark halo around him. His brow was slightly furrowed, his gaze fixed outside, seemingly lost in heavy contemplation, unaware of her entrance. The ashtray on the desk already held several cigarette butts. Wen Qingyao paused, observing his weary and lonely silhouette, her heart aching. Yet she quickly steeled herself. This loneliness might not stem from her presence. Why should she indulge in self-pity? Approaching the desk, she gently placed the divorce agreement before him. The sound of paper meeting wood was a faint crack. He Jinan appeared startled, abruptly turning his head. When his eyes fell upon the conspicuous black letters on the first page of the document, his pupils constricted sharply, and his fingers trembled imperceptibly, ash cascading down. He lifted his gaze to Wen Qingyao, disbelief mingling with profound hurt and anger reflected in his eyes. What is this? His voice was hoarse, laced with fatigue and suppressed fury from a sleepless night. Wen Qingyao's hands, resting by her side, quietly clenched into fists, her nails digging into her palms. Using the pain to maintain a facade of calm, she met his gaze, her voice steady but her heart aching. Hey Jinan, your white moonlight has returned. Let us divorce. Chapter 77. Yao Yao, how can you say one thing and mean another? Hey Jinan's eyes were locked on the glaring black letters of the divorce agreement, feeling somewhat dizzy. The air thickened, leaving only their suppressed breaths and the distant chirping of birds outside, accentuating the silence within the room. He slowly raised his head, his usually deep and steady eyes now turbulent with shock, confusion, and, more poignantly, the agony of impending abandonment. He enunciated each word carefully. Wen Yao Yao. What do you mean by this? Wen Qingyao felt scorched by the pain reflected in his eyes, instinctively wanting to avert her gaze, yet ultimately forcing herself to meet his. Her heart felt as if it were being seared, each passing second an ordeal, yet she could not retreat. She reiterated the cruel decision. Her voice a mere whisper. Hey Jinan, Sui Inyu has returned. Let us divorce. I will return the position of Hei Tai Tai to her, and grant you your freedom. Your freedom? Why the sudden change? What does Sui Inyu have to do with this? Wasn't everything fine before? Didn't you say in Jiangxing that you would always be by my side? Yao Yao, how can you say one thing and mean another? Wen Qingyao found herself at a loss for words. Hey Jinan let out a low laugh, filled with self-mockery and desolation. He had spent the night contemplating, wishing to convey so much to her. Gradually, he rose from his chair, his tall figure imposing. He circled the desk, stepping closer to Wen Qingyao, enveloping her in his presence. Yao Yao, what do you perceive our marriage to be? A game that can be commenced or concluded at will? Or merely a refuge for sympathy and obligation? We have yet to even hold our wedding. I have not taught you to love me, and you wish to cast me aside? His voice was laden with suppressed emotion, each word emerging with difficulty from his chest. You do not even wish to ask if I desire this freedom? Wen Qingyao found herself retreating a step, her back pressed against the bookshelf. He had never spoken to her in such a humble tone. The pain and questioning in his gaze nearly shattered her composure. She clung to her last shred of rationality. Her voice strained. There is no need to ask. I understand. Hey Jinan. I do not need your sympathy or obligation. Nor do I require you to force yourself due to the wishes of our elders. You do not understand. Hey Jinan interrupted, his hands bracing against the bookshelf on either side of her, trapping her between him and the shelves. His breath was warm against her forehead. Yao Yao, I wish to ask you, since our marriage began, have I ever compelled you in any way? Have I done anything to displease you? Speak, and I shall amend it. What has brought us to the brink of divorce? Tears could no longer be contained as they streamed down Wen Qingyao's cheeks. No, he had not angered her. He had done too well, so well that she had become ensnared, so well that she had forgotten this was a union based on duty rather than love. It is because you are too good, Hey Jinan, she choked, but I do not want such goodness. I am exhausted. We truly are not suited for one another. Hey Jinan gazed at the tears cascading down her face, his heart aching to the point of near suffocation. He raised his hand, his fingertips rough, yet gently wiping away her tears. Do not cry. His voice suddenly deepened, carrying a desperate rasp. If you must divorce, I will not force you. I only wish to know, Yao Yao, during this time spent with me, has there ever been a moment of heart flutter? Wen Qingyao trembled at his question, struck at her most vulnerable core. Had she felt a flutter? Certainly, she had fallen in love with him. At some point, this taciturn man, who shielded her with unwavering devotion, had rooted himself deeply in her heart. Yet, this love appeared so pale and laughable in the face of their impending separation. To acknowledge it would only render their farewell more painful. She bit her lower lip tightly, avoiding his scorching gaze and opting for silence. A wordless rejection proved far more lethal than any spoken words. The last flicker of hope in He Jinan's eyes extinguished. He slowly lowered his hand, a self-deprecating smile playing on his lips, filled with endless weariness and bitterness. He took a step back, no longer gazing at her, and turned to retreat to his desk. Just as Wen Qingyao thought he would swiftly sign the divorce agreement or coldly dismiss her, he retrieved a far thicker document from the locked drawer at the bottom of the desk. He gently placed that document beside the divorce agreement. Since you refused to answer, allow me to present an alternative. He Jinan's voice regained its composure, though his eyes still bore the remnants of pain as he gestured to the new document. Open it, and take a look. Wen Qingyao stared at him, then shifted her gaze to the document. Under his silent urging, she hesitantly reached out and opened the cover. What greeted her was a dense list of assets and legal clauses. The share transfer agreement for He Corporation. Dozens of properties both domestic and abroad, including the Yushan mansion they currently resided in, transfer documents for several luxury sports cars, and even several rights to rare mineral resources, all of which unequivocally bore her name, Wen Qingyao. The transfer date was astonishingly yesterday afternoon. Hadn't he mentioned a pressing company meeting the day before? As she flipped through the pages, her fingers trembled uncontrollably. Each asset listed was wealth that ordinary individuals could scarcely dream of accumulating in several lifetimes. He had transferred all his most valuable property into her name. She looked up abruptly, disbelief etched on her face as her voice trembled. He-Jin-nan, what are you doing? Meeting her astonished gaze, He-Jin-nan's tone remained calm, even carrying a hint of reckless abandon. You see, all my wealth is now in your hands. If you insist on divorcing me, you may sign and leave with these. He paused, and I, He-Jin-nan, will become a destitute man. Are you insane? When Qin Yao exclaimed, why would you give this to me? Shouldn't you leave it for the one you love? She could not comprehend why, if he had feelings for another, he would corner himself into such a dire situation. My beloved? He-Jin-nan furrowed his brow. When Yao Yao, what on earth is in that little head of yours? Who told you that I have someone else in my heart? Isn't it true? Wen Qin Yao faltered under his questioning, yet clung to the evidence she had seen. You grew up together, well-matched in background, and everyone believes you are a perfect pair. What others think? He-Jin-nan interrupted, suppressing his anger to avoid frightening her. When did it become others' opinions that dictate whom I marry or whom I hold in my heart? Chapter 78. The Origin of Love, Yet I Adore You. He took a deep breath and extended his hand toward her, his voice softening. Yao Yao, come here. When Qin Yao gazed into his eyes, emotions swirling within them, helplessness, anger, but seemingly devoid of the affection for another woman she had feared. Her feet seemed to possess a will of their own, moving step by step until she stood before him. Just as she halted, He-Jin-nan suddenly reached out and enveloped her tightly in his embrace. His hold was firm, warm, and imbued with a sense of security. Caught off guard, when Qin Yao buried her face in his solid chest, inhaling the familiar scent of him, tinged with a faint trace of lingering tobacco. Listen, when Qin Yao, his chin rested atop her head, his voice low and clear, each word resonating within her heart. I will only say this once, so pay close attention. Since I was 20, my heart has only held a silly girl named Wen Qin Yao. There has never been anyone else. There wasn't, isn't, and there will never be. Cui and you is merely the younger sister of a family friend, nothing more. I marry you because I love you, because I fear that if I do not act, you, this foolish girl who always feels for others, will retreat to some corner to weep or be deceived by some unscrupulous man. I have never uttered words of responsibility, sympathy, or appeasement to elders. I apologize for the misunderstandings that have lingered for so long. I feared that directly professing my love would scare you away. When Qin Yao was left dazed by his unreserved confession, her mind blank as she absorbed the intensity of his embrace and the warmth radiating from him. He loved her? From such an early time? Not out of obligation? But then, with a sense of grievance and confusion, she asked, then why did you push me away last night? That rejected kiss had been the final straw in her belief that he did not love her. He-Jin-nan's body stiffened for a moment before he tightened his hold on her, his tone filled with regret and self-reproach. Last night, I had too much to drink. But I wasn't completely drunk. I sensed you were anxious, perhaps even a bit frightened. Your complexion had been poor these past few days, lacking energy. I thought it was due to exhaustion from visiting the cemetery and was concerned for your health. That's why I forced myself to stop. I had no idea it would lead you to think of divorce. So that was the reason? It was not a rejection of her, but rather a consideration for her feelings and well-being. When Qin Yao stood frozen, her previous assumptions collapsing under the weight of his sincere yet straightforward revelation. You love me? Have you loved me for so long? But why were you so cold to me when we were at the He family? Hearing her tearful inquiry, He-Jin-nan's heart ached with a mix of pain and tenderness. He tightened his embrace around her. Cold to you? He repeated softly, his voice thick with self-deprecation and sorrow. How could I possibly dislike you? My dear, you have no idea the extent of restraint I exercise to maintain that seemingly indifferent facade. His voice lowered further. I feared scaring you. And I was even more afraid you would uncover my unspeakable thoughts. You were so young and innocent, while I was a grown man with ulterior motives. Aside from feigning indifference and distance, I knew not what else to do. He lowered his head, his lips gently brushing against her hair, inhaling her scent. Do you think our encounters were mere coincidences? No, Yao Yao. I have been subconsciously watching you every day. Your joys and sorrows, your every movement has become my instinct. I also dream of you every night. In my dreams, you do not fear me. You do not shy away. You smile at me, come close to me, and belong to me. Every morning, I must exert immense willpower to extricate myself from the dreams where you reside, only to confront the reality of your avoidance. A stark contrast that nearly drives me to madness. When Qin Yao's tears have long since stained her cheeks, these tumultuous emotions, of which she had never been aware, are on the verge of engulfing her. She had never imagined that behind his seemingly indifferent demeanor lay such a fervent and painful struggle. Gu Yanqi's voice, tinged with an undeniable bitterness, echoes in her mind. Every time I see you walking side by side with him, laughing and chatting. Do you know what I wanted to do? I wished to disregard everything and rush over, pulling you to my side, declaring to the world that you are mine. But I could not. I could only treat you with a colder demeanor, channeling all my jealousy into my work. And you, my little fool, actually thought my coldness stemmed from disdain? His voice, laden with helplessness and affection, carries a hint of gritted teeth as he speaks. He raises his hand, gently cradling her tear-streaked face, compelling her to meet his gaze. At this moment, there is no longer any pretense in his eyes, only the raw, accumulated love and desire that have lingered for years. Now do you understand, Wen Qingyao? As he caresses her cheek, his gaze intense. All my anomalies, my aloofness, my unapproachability, are solely due to the fact that I loved you too early and too deeply, a love that left me at a loss. A love that compelled me to protect you in the clumsiest of ways, yet nearly caused me to lose you entirely. I apologize for not having told you this earlier, intending to share it gradually in the future, but you denied me that opportunity by suddenly seeking a divorce. Wen Qingyao gazes into the tide of emotions within his eyes. The sincerity reflected there brings her immeasurable joy. Overwhelmed with happiness, she finds herself at a loss for words, tears flowing more freely. She sobs, I do not truly wish to divorce you. I thought you loved someone else. I believed I had taken the place of Madame He. I thought Cui Inyu had returned, and that you would eventually divorce me. He lowers his head, his lips brushing against her ear, gentle yet firm, laced with a hint of huskiness. Yao Yao, I have never, nor will I ever, contemplate the matter of divorce. This marriage is not a mistake to me. It is the most fortunate and correct decision of my life. You are not an intruder. You are my rightful and sole wife, He Jinan. He pauses, tightening his embrace. Therefore, do not even think about the divorce agreement. As for the assets, he chuckles softly, steady yet triumphant. They are all yours now, Madam He. If you were to abandon me, I would have no choice but to cling to you, allowing you to support me for a lifetime. Wen Qingyao's tears burst forth once more as she extends her arms, tightly embracing his sturdy waist, burying her face deep into the crook of his neck. It turns out that the marriage she believed to be merely transactional was, in fact, a love nest he had carefully constructed. The distance she perceived was merely his profound and restrained affection and protection. Choked with emotion, she finally articulates the deeply buried words. Her voice soft yet crystal clear. I understand, He Jinan. I know of your love for me, and I will no longer misunderstand. I must clarify one thing. I love you. In truth, you have long since taught me this, Mr. He. You are a commendable teacher. He Jinan stiffens, cupping her face. His voice hoarse. What did you say? Please repeat it. Wen Qingyao, holding onto his neck, feels her heart brimming with love, smiling as she reiterates. I love you. He Jinan. I fell for you before I even realized it. A love that arose unbidden, yet I love you deeply. Chapter 79. Thank you for willing to love me. He Jinnan's breath halts. The entire world stands still in the resonance of Wen Qingyao's declaration of love. His eyes tremble violently, as if struck by an overwhelming tidal wave. All rationality and restraint dissipate in that moment, leaving only boundless joy coursing through him. Yao Yao. He calls her name in a low, trembling voice, wary of awakening from this exquisite dream. His hands cradle her cheeks, knuckles whitening from the force, yet he carefully moderates his strength, fearful of causing her pain. In the next moment, his fervent kiss descends, filled with excitement and reverence, like a gentle rain of affection, wiping away her salty tears with tender precision, treating her as a rare treasure. Baby, baby, he murmurs, each word imbued with overwhelming love. Then, his kiss travels down her delicate nose, finally resting upon the soft lips he has longed for. One hand cradles her head, the other encircles her waist, the force so great it feels as though he wishes to merge with her. Wen Qingyao, slightly dazed by his tender yet fervent kiss, is flooded with an indescribable sweetness and security. She strives to respond, her arms tightly encircling his neck, surrendering herself completely. As the kiss concludes, both find their breaths unsteady. He Jinnan's forehead rests against hers, his gaze unwaveringly fixed upon her, ignited with fervent flames, yet brimming with a tenderness that could drown one. Repeat it, he implores, pecking her lips, reluctant to part even for a moment, his voice raspy and pleading. Darling, could you say you love me once more? Wen Qingyao, witnessing the deep affection and childlike persistence in his gaze, feels her heart soften profoundly. She smiles, clearly and deliberately repeating, each word striking his heart. He Jinan, I love you very much. He Jinnan's Adam's apple bobs violently, and he suddenly pulls her tightly into his embrace once more, burying his face in her neck, greedily inhaling her scent. Baby, baby, his voice muffled, reminiscent of a boy who has regained what he thought lost. He lifts his head, his eyes shining brighter than ever, as if all shadows have dispersed, leaving only a clear blue sky. In this life, the next, and the one after. You shall never escape me, Wen Qingyao. His tone is commanding yet filled with endless love. This position of madam, he can only belong to you. As he speaks, his gaze sweeps over the two documents on the desk. He picks up the divorce agreement, tearing it asunder without a second glance, shredding it into pieces and tossing them into the nearby trash bin. From now on, the word divorce shall not be uttered between us, understood? As for this, he takes the weighty asset transfer document, placing it in Wen Qingyao's hands, his eyes ablaze. It is yours. I am merely your subordinate now, so, Madam He. I shall work for you henceforth, and I humbly ask you to support me. Wen Qingyao bursts into laughter, playfully glaring at him, her heart feeling as if it has been drenched in honey. sweet to the point of being overwhelming. Very well, you handle earning a living, while I take care of being beautiful. If we run out of money, I shall provide for you. He Jinan grins, thanking his wife. He then effortlessly lifts Wen Qingyao, his stride strong and urgent. She nestles against his solid chest, listening to the strong, steady beat of his heart. The door to the master bedroom is gently kicked open and slowly closes behind them. He Jinan gently placed her on the soft, spacious bed. He did not leave immediately. Instead, he knelt on one knee at the edge of the bed, leaning in so that their foreheads touched once more, their breaths intertwining. The air thick with an unbreakable affection. The tumultuous emotions gradually settled, like retreating tides leaving behind a warm and damp shore. In the dim light of a yellow bedside lamp, the soft glow outlined their hazy silhouettes. Wen Qingyao raised her hand, her fingertips lightly tracing the contours of He Jinnan's face, her heart brimming with gratitude and happiness for having regained what was once lost. He Jinnan, she whispered, her voice still carrying a hint of the softness that follows tears. Thank you. He Jinnan grasped her restless hand, pressing it against his cheek, his gaze intent. What do you thank me for? Fool, it is I who should express my gratitude. Thank you for choosing to love me. Wen Qingyao shook her head, her expression turning serious. No, I mean, thank you for visiting my parents. He Jinan was momentarily taken aback, clearly unprepared for her sudden mention of this. Wen Qingyao continued, every year on their death anniversary, you go to the cemetery, arriving even before I do, placing their favorite white chrysanthemums. After my father's accident, you anonymously contributed funds to help the company through its difficulties. After you took over the Wen family business, you managed it so well that my parents' efforts were not in vain. The heavy burdens she had once borne alone were no longer painful to recall, for now. She had someone to share them with. He Jinnan's gaze deepened as he pulled her closer, his voice low. It's nothing. You need not thank me. I merely did what I wanted to do and what I should have done. I just regret not having seen your parents one last time properly. She thought he meant not attending her parents' memorial service. She was unaware that he was the one who had taken them to the hospital back then. No, you have done more than enough. Wen Qingyao interrupted him, new tears shimmering in her eyes, this time warm. It is precisely because you have done so much for my family. Your kindness weighs heavily upon me, so much so that I do not know how to repay it. She lowered her gaze, her voice softening with reminiscence. That is why, during my time at the He family, I dared not approach you. You seemed like someone standing on a cloud, while I was burdened with scars. I felt unworthy and feared that this gratitude would suffocate me. Even more so that I could never repay your kindness. This was a secret she had buried deep within for many years. The root of her aloofness and timidity in front of him. The immense gratitude and the disparity in her circumstances wove an invisible net, ensnaring her, making her afraid to hope for his affection. He Jinnan felt as though an invisible hand had tightly grasped his heart, a mix of sweetness and pain. It was only at this moment that he truly understood her previous aloofness was a burden she had carried for far too long. What he thought was protection had, in a sense, become her burden. Fool. He sighed, kissing the top of her head, his voice filled with tenderness. Everything I do for you was never meant to be repaid. I love you, Yao Yao, and I have done so for a long, long time. Being good to you is an instinctive need, as natural as breathing. You need not feel pressured, nor fear to come close to me. He cradled her face, compelling her to meet his gaze, which held nothing but unreserved sincerity and affection. In the past, I was not attentive enough to notice your unease. That will not happen again. With me, you shall never feel unworthy. You are the best, the treasure I have pursued all my life. Let us not speak of debts. Between us, there is only love, only mutual obligations. I owe you a carefree future, and you owe me a lifetime of companionship. Is that agreeable? Wen Qingyao gazed into his eyes, which reflected her image clearly, enveloped in profound affection. At that moment, the knots in her heart were entirely untied, warmth flowing through her being. She nodded vigorously, breaking into a smile. All right, then we have a pact for a lifetime, until we grow old and reach our conclusion. Yes, a lifetime, He Jinan solemnly promised, leaning down to kiss her lips once more. His kiss seemed to pour forth all the love he had accumulated over the years. His palm rested on her waist, causing Wen Qingyao to shiver. Wife, he gasped as he withdrew from her lips, his hoarse voice brushing against her ear, laden with unmasked desire. I want you. Right now, I want you so desperately. Chapter 80. Mr. He, Mrs. He, congratulations, you are indeed pregnant. The explicit words caused Wen Qinyao's cheeks to flush. She was engulfed by the overwhelming tide of his emotions. Dizzy with desire as she wrapped her arms around his neck, willingly offering her lips, responding to his request with a tender yet earnest consent. With her permission, He Jinnan's movements became increasingly intimate. His kisses traveled down her slender neck, his large hand restlessly exploring the opening of her robe. The air thickened with an intoxicating aura of passion, the temperature steadily rising. In the midst of this fervor, He Jinnan's hand glided over her flat abdomen, ready to advance further when Wen Qingyao suddenly jolted back to reality. The baby. She had almost forgotten this crucial matter. Wait, darling, hold on. She hastily pressed her hand against his solid chest, her voice laced with panic. The arrow was drawn but abruptly halted. He Jin-nan's breath came heavy, beads of sweat forming on his brow. He struggled to contain the almost overwhelming desire, propping himself up and looking down at the flustered woman beneath him. His voice hoarse with emotion. What's wrong, darling? Don't be afraid. Did I hurt you? He assumed she was nervous or still recovering from the previous emotion, quickly offering gentle reassurances. When Xingyao looked into his eyes, filled with desire yet still radiating concern, her heart warmed and pained. She bit her lip, speaking softly yet clearly, it's not that. It's I'm pregnant. The moment the words left her lips, the heated air in the room seemed to freeze. All of He Jin-nan's movements came to a standstill. The passion on his face faded at a visible speed, replaced by a blank astonishment. His gaze locked onto hers, swirling with disbelief, shock, and a hint of confusion. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. He swallowed hard, his voice dry and barely audible. What did you say? He feared he had misheard and cautiously sought confirmation. Yao Yao, what did you just say? Please repeat it. When Xingyao felt her heart race at his overly calm reaction, timidly repeating, I said, I'm pregnant. You are going to be a father. This time. He Jin-nan heard her clearly. He did not react with the joyous exclamation she had anticipated, nor did he embrace her with excitement. He simply maintained his position above her, immobile, his gaze slowly shifting down to her still flat abdomen, an expression so complex that when Xingyao could not decipher it. This strange silence and calmness filled her with fear. She was uncertain whether he anticipated the arrival of this child, especially at this moment when they had just resolved their misunderstandings and their relationship was rapidly advancing. Was this unexpected child a blessing or a burden? Hey Jin-nan. She tentatively called out to him, her voice trembling slightly. This gentle call seemed to pull He Jin-nan back from the overwhelming shock. He took a deep breath, carefully moved away from her, and sat on the edge of the bed, his back turned to her, the lines of his shoulders taut with tension. When Xingyao felt her heart sink. Did he not want this child? However, in the next moment, He Jin-nan turned to face her. The dazed expression he had moments ago was replaced by a profound tenderness restrained by his overwhelming emotions, yet one could discern the turbulent waves swirling deep within his eyes, even his fingertips trembling slightly. Do not move, he said in a low, hoarse voice, then leaned down, carefully adjusting her disheveled robe, fastening the ties with a gentleness as if handling a fragile treasure. Afterward, he rose and walked to the wardrobe, returning with a loose, soft cotton loungewear set. Come. Raise your arms. Let us first get you dressed to avoid catching a chill. He treated her with the utmost tenderness, helping her into the clothing, avoiding lingering his gaze on her abdomen, as though it were something that could shatter with a mere touch. Once she was dressed, He Jin-nan said nothing but swiftly picked her up in his arms. When Xingyao let out a soft gasp, instinctively wrapping her arms around his neck. I can walk by myself, she murmured. Yet He Jin-nan seemed not to hear her, holding her securely, steadily, yet slowly descending the stairs. Arriving at the living room sofa where he sat, adjusting his position to ensure she was cradled comfortably in his embrace. One arm encircled her waist while the other intertwined with her fingers, the grip firm enough to cause her slight discomfort. He held her silently, his chin resting gently against the top of her head, without uttering a word. When Xingyao could feel the rapid thudding of his heart against her, its rhythm startlingly fast, she looked up to see his tightly pressed lips and rigid jaw, finally understanding that he was not calm. He was anxious. A tumult of joy and worry intertwining, leaving him at a loss. The unease within her was instantly washed away by a surge of warmth. Unable to resist, she lifted her hand to caress his taut cheek, planting a gentle kiss on his face, softly saying, Darling, relax a little, I am not so fragile. Typically, if she had initiated such affection, He Jin-nan would have insisted on reciprocating. However, he grasped her small hand, pressing it against his cheek, his gaze cast downwards, revealing a depth of concern and earnestness that was palpable. He inhaled deeply, attempting to steady his voice, yet it still trembled slightly. I cannot relax, Yao Yao. I am currently holding my entire world. How can you expect me to remain composed? His words brought a sting to Wen Qingyao's nose, and her eyes began to glisten once more. So this was how he perceived her and their child. But you are making me a little scared, she whispered. He Jin-nan immediately tightened his embrace, repeatedly apologizing. I'm sorry, my dear. It is my fault for frightening you. He struggled to regulate his breathing, trying to appear calmer, but to little effect. After a brief silence, as if he had made a significant decision, he gently placed her on the sofa and crouched before her, looking up with utmost seriousness. Shall we go to the hospital now? Huh. Now. Aren't you going to the office this afternoon? Yes, right now. I decide when to go to the office, he insisted with unwavering resolve. I must have a doctor examine you to feel at ease. He could not tolerate any uncertainties, especially concerning her and the child. He stood and swiftly, yet gently, helped her into her coat and soft flats before lifting her once more, heading directly to the garage. Throughout this process, He Jin-nan maintained an air of calmness and order. He personally fastened her seatbelt, adjusted her seat for comfort, and controlled the car's speed with utmost care. Yet, as when Xingyao observed his white-knuckled grip on the steering wheel and his tightly pressed lips, she understood the intensity of his inner turmoil had reached its peak. Upon arriving at the city's finest private hospital, He Jin-nan had already arranged for a familiar obstetrician. Throughout the examination, he remained steadfastly by her side, holding her hand and closely observing the doctor's every move. When the doctor cheerfully announced, "Mr. Hay, Mrs. Hay, congratulations, you are indeed pregnant." Based on the HCG levels and the ultrasound, the gestational age is approximately 3 weeks, and all indicators are currently normal. Wen Qingyao distinctly felt his large hand tighten around hers, even causing her to tremble slightly. Chapter 81, Miss Tsue. I called you out to clarify a few matters in person. Doctor, what should we pay attention to next? His voice was significantly deeper and hoarser than usual, each word articulated with exceptional caution. Diet, daily routine? Are there any actions to avoid? For instance, can she bend over or walk quickly? He listed a series of questions. His concern so meticulous that it astonished Wen Qingyao, even recalling her occasional preference for walking barefoot at home as a key point of concern. The experienced female expert observed the young man before her, a powerhouse in the business world who was about to become a father, and could not help but smile warmly. Adjusting her glasses, she spoke in a soothing tone. Mr. Hay, please do not be overly anxious. Mrs. Hay has a solid constitution. All current indicators are excellent. She began to provide a clear response. In terms of diet, maintain balanced nutrition, continue supplementing folic acid in the early stages, and avoid raw foods, undercooked items, and alcohol. Coffee and strong tea can be consumed in moderation. It is unnecessary to eliminate them entirely, but keeping it to 1 cup a day is prudent. Regarding daily life, ensure ample sleep, avoid staying up late, and overexertion. As for activities, the doctor paused, noting He Jin-nan's tense expression, her smile deepening. Ordinary daily activities are completely fine. Walking and shopping are beneficial. Mrs. Hay is not a fragile item. She should not be treated as if she were a glass doll. Just avoid vigorous exercise and any actions that could lead to falls. Pregnancy is a physiological process, not an illness. Maintaining a cheerful disposition is paramount. He Jin-nan listened intently. Isn't the early stage of pregnancy particularly delicate? I have heard that the first 3 months are quite unstable. He continued to inquire with concern. Indeed, the early stage requires extra caution, primarily to avoid excessive fatigue and external detrimental factors. However, there is no need for excessive anxiety. Take it as it comes and trust in the vitality of the baby. Currently, Mrs. Hay is not experiencing any abdominal pain, bleeding, or discomfort, which is an excellent sign. Regular prenatal checkups are essential, and feel free to contact us with any questions. The doctor explained patiently, concluding with a humorous note. Mr. Hay, please relax. Mrs. Hay is merely pregnant. It is not as if she has contracted a grave illness. Your anxiety may inadvertently place stress on the expectant mother. This remark seemed to awaken He Jin-nan from his reverie. He paused for a moment, instinctively glancing at Wen Qingyao, and indeed found her pursing her lips. Her gaze imbued with a hint of helplessness and warmth directed towards him. It was then that he realized how excessively tense he had been since receiving the news. Thank you, doctor, I understand, He Jin-nan said, taking a deep breath. He expressed his gratitude to the physician solemnly, and then cautiously assisted Wen Qingyao in descending from the examination table. Upon leaving the hospital and settling back into the car, He Jin-nan did not immediately start the engine. Instead, he turned to face Wen Qingyao, gazing deeply into her eyes, his large hand gently resting on her flat abdomen, which, although still smooth, cradled the essence of their love. I'm sorry, my dear, he murmured, his tone laced with regret and a sense of relief. I've been too anxious. The doctor is right. I must not impose any pressure on you. Wen Qingyao shook her head, taking the initiative to grasp his hand, intertwining their fingers, her face radiating a gentle glow of happiness. It's all right. I know you care deeply for both me and the baby. He Jin-nan leaned down, placing a chaste kiss on her forehead, free from any desire. Then pulled back slightly, his hands still cradling her face, his eyes filled with affection and a profound sense of responsibility. Qingyao, he began, his voice considerably steadier than it had been in the doctor's office, yet still imbued with careful contemplation. I have a thought regarding our wedding that I wish to discuss with you. Wen Qingyao looked at him, her eyes reflecting gentle curiosity. He Jin-nan continued. Our wedding originally scheduled for the 18th. I was wondering if we could postpone it, perhaps until after the baby is born safely and healthily, so we can celebrate in style. What do you think? He meticulously observed Wen Qingyao's expression, anxious to catch any hint of reluctance, and explained. You know I have longed to make you the legitimate Mrs. He as soon as possible. However, planning a wedding is an immensely taxing endeavor, with organizing details and managing various trivialities. I do not wish to burden you during this early stage of your pregnancy, when you most require stability and rest. The doctor emphasized that maintaining a joyful mood and avoiding excessive fatigue is paramount. He paused, softening his tone and adopting a more conciliatory manner. At present, nothing is more vital than your and the baby's health and well-being. We can focus on nurturing the pregnancy, and once everything stabilizes and you've recuperated, we can host a more splendid and meaningful wedding together with our little one. How does that sound? Wen Qingyao listened quietly, her expression devoid of the disappointment or resistance that He Jin-nan had feared. On the contrary, a deeper, understanding smile blossomed on her face. She had, in fact, suspected this possibility when the doctor mentioned his excessive anxiety. She took his substantial hand and pressed it against her cheek, nuzzling against it like a cat seeking its owner's affection. I was just thinking about this too, she said softly, her voice imbued with a uniquely maternal tranquility. I believe postponing would be for the best. Not because I wish to be lazy, she added playfully, winking, but because I truly want to enjoy this special time comfortably and at ease. The thought of standing in a possibly constricting wedding dress for an extended period, while dealing with numerous guests, was indeed overwhelming. She looked at He Jin-nan, her heart melting. Moreover, Wen Qingyao guided his hand to her still flat abdomen, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. By that time, our wedding will include our most important little guest, allowing them to witness the happiest moment of their parents. Wouldn't that be more meaningful? He Jin-nan's heart swelled with her words, a profound sense of emotion and reassurance flooding over him. All right, I will heed your wishes. He whispered into her hair. For now, your task is to eat well, sleep well, and maintain a good mood. Everything else is up to me. After safely escorting Wen Qingyao home, He Jin-nan patiently stayed with her until he watched her consume the meal prepared by the servants and, due to the fatigue of pregnancy, slowly drift into slumber. Only then did he quietly leave the bedroom and close the door behind him. Standing in the soft light of the corridor, the gentleness faded from his expression, replaced by a stark tranquility. He took out his phone, walked to the study, and dialed a number, lowering his voice. Contact Miss Chui and you and arrange to meet her in 1 hour at the cafe in the city center. Zhao He was highly efficient and promptly responded that arrangements had been made. An hour later, in a private cafe on the top floor of a central building, the elegant environment and expansive view were overshadowed by an invisible tension. He Jin-nan chose a discreet spot by the window, already waiting there, his untouched coffee steaming before him. Chui En-yu, impeccably dressed, arrived as scheduled, her face betraying an uncontainable surprise and anticipation. That He Jin-nan had initiated the meeting was something she had hardly dared to imagine since returning to the country. She approached the table with light steps, her voice sweet. Jin-nan, I didn't expect you to reach out to me. She attempted to infuse her tone with a natural intimacy, reminiscent of their past acquaintance. He Jin-nan did not rise, merely gestured for her to sit, his gaze calm and unyielding, bypassing pleasantries to dive straight into the matter at hand, causing the smile on Chui En-yu's face to falter. Miss Chui, he addressed her with an air of detachment, instantly delineating boundaries. The purpose of our meeting today is to clarify a few points face to face. Chui En-yu's heart sank slightly, forcing a smile. What could be so serious? Surely, there is no need for such formality between us. He Jin-nan ignored her attempts at closeness, his eyes piercing as he regarded her, his tone cold and precise. Firstly, I wish for you to maintain an appropriate distance from anyone in the He family, especially my mother. Unnecessary interactions and companionship can be avoided. Chui En-yu's complexion paled, taken aback by He Jin-nan's unyielding stance. My mother only cares for me. My mother has a kind heart and cherishes old friendships. He Jin-nan interrupted. But this does not grant you the right to blur any boundaries. The sole mistress of the He family, now and in the future, is Wen Qingyao. I do not wish for any misunderstandings that might cause her discomfort. He paused, his gaze darkening further, directly addressing the subtle atmosphere that had lingered during their previous encounters in the park and possibly elsewhere. Secondly, and most importantly, please refrain from making any ambiguous or suggestive remarks in front of Qingyao. Do not attempt to create any illusions of a special relationship between us. Chui En-yu, caught off guard by his frankness, felt a rush of embarrassment and unwillingness. Jin-nan, how can you say that? In the past, He Jin-nan decisively interrupted her once more, without a trace of hesitation, utterly shattering any lingering illusions she may have harbored. Miss Chui, I hope you understand and remember this. I have never had feelings for you, neither in the past nor present, and certainly not in the future. His words struck her like a hammer, landing heavily upon Chui En-yu's heart. She had always believed that, due to the friendship between their families, her childhood bond with him, and her own family background and appearance, she held a special place in He Jin-nan's heart. Yet to her astonishment, he could so bluntly and cruelly dismiss her feelings. You, Chui En-yu, her voice trembled. Do you truly care for her feelings? Not even a shred of old affection? Yes, He Jin-nan responded without a moment's hesitation, even leaning slightly forward, his gaze imbued with a formidable intensity. I care deeply for her feelings. I care whether she is happy, whether she feels secure, whether she harbors even the slightest insecurity. I do not wish for any inconsequential person or baseless rumor to cause her even the slightest misunderstanding or sorrow. He looked at her, enunciating each word clearly. What I desire is to provide her with 100% security, to ensure that she knows, in my world, from the past to the present and into the future, there is only her, Wen Qingyao. I will not permit the existence of anyone or anything that seeks to undermine this sense of security. He leaned back against the chair, his tone softening slightly. Yet the warning remained unmistakable. Miss Chui, you are an intelligent person. You should understand my meaning. Maintaining a basic level of decorum is beneficial for everyone. If you continue to spread false information or attempt to approach and disrupt my family and wife, I will not hesitate to use more explicit means to protect my family and my wife. His words struck with tremendous force. There was no shouting, no cursing, but each sentence resonated with an undeniable weight, striking Chui In-Yu's heart, making her acutely aware of how unyielding and protective this man could be for Wenqing Yao. Chui In-Yu's complexion turned ashen. All her careful preparations and expectations rendered a mockery in that moment. She gazed into He Jinnan's deep yet cold eyes and finally comprehended that all her scheming and insinuations were utterly futile in the face of his profound love and protection. In a daze, she stood up, unable to utter a farewell, and almost fled the cafe in panic. He Jinnan watched her retreating figure with not a ripple of emotion in his eyes. He lifted the now lukewarm coffee cup, taking a gentle sip. The bitter flavor spread across his tongue, yet it paled in comparison to the heartache he felt at the thought of Wenqing Yao furrowing her brow over such trivial matters. He took out his phone and sent a message to his assistant. Keep an eye on the recent movements of the Chui family and their interactions with other members of the Yi family. Inform me immediately of any circumstances that may affect my wife. After completing this, he settled the bill and departed. Upon returning home, the evening sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a warm glow across the living room. He tread lightly up the stairs, pushing open the bedroom door to find Wenqing Yao still peacefully asleep, her breathing steady, her cheeks flushed with a healthy hue. Wenqing Yao awoke gradually to a gentle yet intimate stirring, as He Jinnan's hands roamed restlessly around her waist and back, radiating warmth. His lips brushing lightly against her temple and cheek. Husband, she murmured softly, still drowsy and bewildered. Did you sleep well, my darling? He Jinnan's voice was hoarse, whispering against her ear, eliciting a shiver. What are you doing? Instead of directly addressing her confusion, he continued to act on his intentions. It dawned on Wenqing Yao just how intimate and precarious their position was. Suddenly flustered, she pressed her hands against his solid chest, her tone urgent and cautionary. No. You can't. I'm pregnant. The doctor said I must be especially careful during the first 3 months. We can't. He Jinnan lifted his head, his eyes swirling with desire and restrained anguish. He inhaled deeply, holding her hands against his chest. Feeling the extraordinary heat, she instinctively tried to withdraw her hand, only to have it firmly grasped by He Jinnan. I know, he panted, his forehead resting against hers, their noses touching, breaths mingling. Darling, I know I won't harm you or the baby. His voice was filled with a husky restraint, tinged with a pitiful plea, his handsome face exuding longing. But my love, I am suffering, truly suffering. I can't eat meat. Please let me have some meat soup, all right? Help me. Wenqing Yao's face flushed crimson, even her ears burning. She gazed into his eyes, filled with desire yet cautious tenderness, her heart swelling with a mix of softness and annoyance, along with a hint of amusement. She playfully glared at him, her tone accusatory. He Jinnan, you were so concerned about me at the hospital, and now it seems it was all an act. How quickly you've revealed your true self. He Jinnan chuckled at her expression, the sound resonating in his chest, causing her to shudder slightly. He leaned in closer, affectionately kissing the corners of her lips, her nose, and her eyes, repeatedly murmuring, it wasn't an act. I truly care for you. I truly worry about you. But darling, you are simply too alluring. I can't resist. His kisses were tender and gentle, imbued with unending affection and cautious yearning, attempting to dismantle her defenses. Wenqing Yao felt herself growing weak under his caresses. Reason urged her to recognize the danger, yet her emotions were stirred by his pitiful yet relentless demeanor. Ultimately, under the gaze filled with love and desire, she half-heartedly acquiesced to his wishes. Throughout the entire encounter, He Jinnan exhibited utmost restraint, his movements as gentle as can be, constantly attuned to her reactions. Meanwhile, Wenqing Yao, blushing fiercely, closed her eyes, experiencing their unique intimacy, internally muttering, old men are such deceivers. My hands are going to ache. Chapter 83. Have you never had a girlfriend before? The following day, in the master bedroom, Wenqing Yao stirred slightly, and above her, He Jinnan's deep, morning raspy voice broke the silence. Awake? Did you sleep well, my darling? Recalling the events of the previous night, her cheeks involuntarily flushed again. She mumbled a soft burying her face into his embrace. He Jinnan chuckled softly, the vibrations resonating within his chest, pulling her closer, kissing the top of her head. That's great. Will you accompany me to the company today? To the company? Wenqing Yao lifted her head, somewhat surprised. Given her pregnancy fatigue and He Jinnan's protectiveness, she had planned to venture out less. Especially during the critical first 3 months, she was even considering taking a year off from school. Yes, He Jinnan replied, his fingers entwining with her hair, his tone gentle yet firm. I am not at ease with you alone at home. I'll take you to my office for you to rest. And I can keep an eye on you at all times. After pondering for a moment, realizing the monotony of staying home, she nodded in agreement. After breakfast, He Jinnan personally drove Wenqing Yao to the He Corporation headquarters. Upon exiting the vehicle, he circled to the passenger side, carefully assisting her out. and then naturally clasped her hand in his, their fingers intertwined. From the underground parking garage to the top-floor executive office, they passed through the lobby and took the private elevator. He Jin-in exuded a commanding presence, striding confidently, while employees greeted him with respect. Their astonishment evident as they observed the beautiful and gentle young woman beside him, whose hand he held tightly. This was the first time He Jin-in had ever had a female companion, and the tender care he exhibited, along with the warmth in his gaze, completely overturned the collective perception of him. Soon, the various chat groups within the company erupted with excitement. Breaking news. President He brought a fairy to the company today. Hand in hand, fingers intertwined. President He's gaze is so gentle it could melt. Isn't that the legendary Mrs. He? My goodness, she is stunningly beautiful, fair-skinned and delicate, with an exceptional aura. Mrs. He is here for an inspection. Gentlemen, pay attention to your appearance. So President He is into this type. Truly a hardened steel turned into tender softness. It appears the rumors of President He being married are indeed true, and he is exceedingly devoted to his wife. These discussions, of course, went unnoticed by Wen Qingyao. She merely felt a bit shy and whispered to He Jinan, "You're holding my hand too tightly. So many people are watching us." He Jinan, however, paid no mind to her discomfort and tightened his grip, leaning in to whisper in her ear, "Let them look. I am holding my wife. What does it matter?" He wanted everyone to see and understand. Upon entering the spacious and luxurious presidential office, He Jinan assisted her onto a comfortable sofa. "Would you like something to drink? Milk or juice? I can have my secretary prepare it. Just warm water will suffice." When Qingyao replied, He Jinan relayed the request and then sat beside her, gently caressing her face. "I have an important meeting this morning, which will last about an hour and a half. You can rest here, read a magazine, or use my tablet to watch a show. If you get bored, just call me. I can step out of the meeting at any time." When Qingyao chuckled softly, "There's no need for such exaggeration. Go ahead with your work. I can manage on my own." After a few more reminders from He Jinan, he left for the meeting. The office fell into a tranquil silence. When Qingyao took a sip of water and surveyed her surroundings. She seldom visited this place, yet each time she did, her heart swelled with emotion. This was He Jinan's realm, meticulous, efficient, and composed. After sitting for a while, she indeed felt a bit bored and recalled He Jinan's earlier words. So she picked up his personal phone resting on the coffee table. He had shared the password with her, granting her complete access. Upon unlocking the screen, she discovered a clean interface. Curiously, she opened the photo album, expecting to find work-related screenshots or scenic pictures, but was astonished to see a plethora of her own photographs. She paused, then scrolled down, 1 picture, 2, 10, 100. Almost the entire album was filled with images of her. There were side profiles of her sleeping, adorable moments of her cheeks puffed while eating, lazy snapshots of her basking in the garden sun, candid shots of her beaming at the camera, and even some slightly blurred life fragments that she herself was unaware of being captured. Judging by the angles and backgrounds, many were secretly taken by He Jinan. When Qingyao's heart began to race involuntarily, a sense of indescribable sweetness and happiness flooding through her like a warm spring. She had known that He Jinan adored her. Yet she had no idea that he had been quietly documenting so many moments of her life in such a way. All of this stemmed from his love, while she foolishly thought it was merely his obligation or kindness. This man, who appeared cold and taciturn before others, with a mind for strategy, possessed such a tender and nuanced side. Holding the phone, her lips curved into an uncontrollable smile, her heart softening into a puddle. When the meeting concluded and He Jinan returned to the office, he found his little wife seated on the sofa, clutching his phone, grinning like a cat that had stolen honey, her cheeks flushed and her eyes sparkling as they met his gaze. "What is you so pleased?" He Jinan inquired, sitting beside her and drawing her into his embrace. When Qingyao held the phone screen up to his eyes, her voice laced with uncontainable joy and playful reproach. "Darling, could you explain the contents of your phone album? Why is it filled with pictures of a certain woman? Do you have a secret?" He Jinan gazed into her mischievous and lively eyes, love swelling within him, and leaned down to kiss the corner of her upturned lips, readily admitting, "Indeed, there is a secret. The secret is that I am deeply infatuated with the woman in those photographs, unable to extricate myself." His straightforward confession made Wen Qingyao's face burn even more, yet her heart bubbled with sweetness. Nestling against him, she murmured, "When did you take these? I had no idea. Some are rather unflattering." "To me, you are beautiful at all times," He Jinan replied, gently rubbing his chin against her hair. "Whenever I miss you, I look at them. Especially during the times when you were not by my side." He referred to the 2 years before their marriage when he was abroad. When Qingyao felt a stir within her, suddenly recalling the past she had never been a part of, along with her subtle curiosity that had lingered unexamined in her heart. After sitting for a while, she began to feel drowsy. He Jinan, perceptive as ever, remarked, "Are you tired? Would you like to rest in the lounge for a while?" His office was equipped with a well-furnished rest area. When Qingyao nodded, He Jinan assisted her to her feet and led her into the lounge. The lounge was similarly arranged with simplicity and comfort. When Qingyao lay down, and He Jinan carefully tucked her under a light blanket. As she admired the handsome profile and focused expression of the man, a playful spirit suddenly emerged within her, and she teasingly asked, "President He, With such a convenient rest area, did you often hide women here in the past? She intended it as a joke, curious about his response. Unexpectedly, He Jinan paused, lifting his gaze to meet hers with an unusually serious and profound expression, his tone resolute. No, never. He grasped her hand, articulating each word. Since this office has been in use, apart from the cleaning staff, the only woman allowed in this lounge has always been you, Wen Qingyao. His answer was so definitive and swift, lacking any hesitation or concealment, that it left Wen Qingyao momentarily speechless. She blinked, a bolder question surfacing in her mind. After a moment's hesitation, she ventured, with a hint of probing disbelief. So, when you were studying and working abroad, you never had a girlfriend? Chapter 84. You can keep applying the mask, I want to speak. After asking, she gazed at him nervously. A man as exceptional as he surely must have had romantic experiences in his youth. She had nearly anticipated hearing tales of past relationships. He Jinan fell silent for a moment, his eyes fixed on her, as if reminiscing. Just as Wen Qingyao thought he might not wish to answer or needed time to gather his thoughts, he slowly spoke, his voice deep and clear. No. Wen Qingyao was utterly astonished, her mouth slightly agape. Not even once? Not even once, He Jinan affirmed, his response unwavering. Observing her astonishment, a gentle smile graced his lips. Tinged with self-deprecation, do you think your husband is rather dull, or is there something wrong? Not at all. Wen Qingyao instinctively denied, hastily explaining, I'm just surprised. Someone as remarkable as you should have attracted many admirers. There may be those who liked me, He Jinan replied with a calm demeanor. But I never encountered anyone I wished to draw close to or spend my life with. He paused, his gaze intensely locking onto hers. Filled with a swirl of complex emotions, relief, destiny, and a profound, oceanic love, until I met you. Yao Yao, you may find it hard to believe, but in my 30 years of existence, you are the first and only woman who has stirred my heart, who has made me yearn for marriage, and who inspires me to devote everything to cherish. Before your arrival, my emotional landscape was a barren void, seemingly existing solely in anticipation of your coming. Wen Qingyao was utterly taken aback, her heart feeling as though it had been struck heavily by something, followed by a surge of profound and tumultuous excitement. She had never anticipated such a response. This man, standing at the pinnacle, possesses a romantic history as pristine as a blank canvas, and she is the only vivid stroke upon it. After the initial shock, an overwhelming sense of gratitude and an indescribable happiness washed over her. She suddenly comprehended why his love for her was always imbued with a clumsy focus and unreserved ardor. It was because all of his emotions, from the very beginning to the end, were exclusively devoted to her. Noticing the slight redness around her eyes, He Jinan gently leaned down to kiss her eyelids, whispering, Do not cry, my dear. This is not a matter to feel sorrow over. I am truly fortunate that all my firsts, my first love, my first kiss, my first flutter of the heart, and even my marriage, belong to you. This, to me, is the utmost fulfillment. Wen Qingyao sniffled, instinctively wrapping her arms around his neck and burying her face in the crook of his neck. Her voice was muffled, yet brimming with reliance and affection. He Jinan, how can you be so wonderful? It turned out that what she received was a love so complete, pure, and unreserved. He was domineering, focused, and unwavering. The insecurities and speculations that had arisen from Cui Inyu's matter dissipated in that moment. He provided her with the most solid and irrefutable sense of security in his own way. He Jinan gently patted her back, soothing her as one might a child. Sleep now, I will stay with you for a while. Enveloped in the comforting aura of the man, Wen Qingyao succumbed to a deep and restful slumber, her heart brimming with sweetness and assurance. He Jinan gazed at her, his eyes filled with an incredible tenderness. Before encountering her, his world was a precisely functioning machine, a starkly defined business landscape. Yet her presence infused his existence with color, warmth, and all-encompassing significance. He cherished this hard-earned gift and would not allow anyone or anything to disrupt it, whether it be Cui Inyu or any other potential threat. He would unhesitatingly eliminate it. Wen Qingyao slumbered deeply and securely. In her drowsy state, she felt a gentle sensation on her cheek, accompanied by the faintest sound. Slowly, she opened her sleepy eyes, her hazy vision gradually focusing to reveal He Jinan holding his phone, the camera aimed at her. A mischievous smile dancing at the corners of his lips. Instantly alert, she recalled the unflattering photos in his album and reached out to snatch it away. Ah, you took another candid of me. Did you capture me drooling again? Delete it. He Jinan, quick on the uptake, raised his arm high, effortlessly evading her grasp. No drooling this time. It's a photo of Sleeping Beauty awakening, particularly adorable. Liar, let me see. Unwilling to relent, Wen Qingyao half-kneeled, lunging to seize the phone, nearly draping herself over him. Concerned that her movements might harm her, He Jinan swiftly encircled her waist with his free arm, securing her safely in his embrace while teasing her. No, this is my treasured edition. He Jinan, Wen Qingyao, both shy and anxious, squirmed in his arms to reach for the phone. Will you delete it or not? The two of them tumbled onto the soft bed, laughing and playing. He Jinan was ever mindful of her abdomen, carefully positioning her above him, supporting her weight. During their playful tussle, his arm inadvertently shifted, the outer side of his elbow brushing against Wen Qingyao's front. Ouch! She gasped, her body freezing, her brow furrowing tightly, a flicker of pain crossing her face. He Jin-nan immediately sensed something was amiss, all playful intentions vanishing in an instant as he anxiously inquired, "What happened? Did I hurt you? Did I apply too much pressure?" He quickly relaxed his arm, wanting to check yet hesitating to move rashly. After a few moments, Wen Qingyao felt the sharp throbbing pain subside slightly. Seeing He Jin-nan's face filled with regret and concern, she felt a bit embarrassed. Her cheeks flushing as she softly explained, "No, it's not your fault. It was already hurting there." He Jin-nan was momentarily bewildered. "Where?" Wen Qingyao's face turned even redder, her gaze evasive, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's just there. It aches during pregnancy, which is a normal physiological phenomenon. You just accidentally touched it, so it hurt quite a bit." He Jin-nan looked at the position of her hand and suddenly understood, his heart easing somewhat. But upon seeing her pained expression, he tossed his phone aside and gently held her shoulders, his tone filled with remorse and concern. "I'm sorry, my dear. I didn't know. Is it very painful? Is there any way to alleviate it?" Observing his overly cautious demeanor warmed Wen Qingyao's heart, and she shook her head. "It's fine. It's just sensitive to touch. It's like this in early pregnancy. It might improve over time." However, He Jin-nan evidently had no intention of letting it go. He carefully helped her sit up, propping her against the headboard. "Wait a moment." He swiftly walked into the attached restroom, returning shortly with a towel that had been soaked in hot water and wrung out. He sat at the edge of the bed, gently lifting her clothing, which startled Wen Qingyao, causing her to shyly recoil. "What are you doing? It's broad daylight. I don't want to." He Jin-nan, noticing her attempt to distance herself, pulled her back into his embrace, soothing her. "What are you thinking? I intend to use a warm towel to soothe you. What do you think I want?" Wen Qingyao countered. "Well, there is no need for that. I'm very shy." He Jin-nan, feigning ignorance, boldly replied. "What are you shy about? I've seen every part of you. Not only have I seen, but I've also, at just the right moment." Wen Qingyao covered his mouth. He was always so brazen in this regard that she couldn't compete with him. All right, you can apply it. I won't say anything." He Jin-nan cast her a sidelong glance, chuckling as he placed the warm towel on her aching area. After the warm towel was applied, the soothing sensation gradually penetrated her skin, indeed alleviating some of the discomfort. Wen Qingyao's previously tense body began to relax, though the blush on her cheeks remained. He Jin-nan attentively observed her expression, noting her brows unfurling, which brought him a measure of relief. He gently brushed his fingertips against her warm cheek, chuckling softly. "Still shy? Do you feel better?" Wen Qingyao shot him an exasperated glare, though her lips betrayed a hint of a smile. At that moment, his phone on the bedside table vibrated, the screen flashing the name, Yang Zonghong. He glanced at it, picked up the phone with one hand, and steadied the warm towel with the other. "Hello?" A cheerful, laughter-laden male voice came through the line. "Mr. He, what are you busy with? You've been off the radar for a while. Let us gather tonight? Same place, we're just waiting for you." He Jin-nan did not hesitate for a moment and directly declined, stating, "I'm busy, you all go ahead." On the other end, Yang Zonghong clicked his tongue. Bewildered, "What is going on? You've almost become a recluse since marriage. Are you afraid of upsetting your wife?" As if she could tie you to your pants. He urged, "Come out and relax." He Jin-nan replied in a calm tone, gently refusing, "You all enjoy yourselves. Just put the expenses under my name." "Are you really not coming?" Yang Zonghong persisted. He Jin-nan, losing his patience, retorted, "I'm hanging up. Don't disturb my wife's rest." With that, he abruptly ended the call. Wen Qingyao had been listening the entire time. After he set down the phone, she softly remarked, "Actually, you could go. I don't mind being home alone. Reading and listening to music is quite nice too." He Jin-nan, rinsing a cool towel in the basin of hot water, moved with natural fluidity. Without raising his head, he replied, "I don't want to go. Spending time with them is a waste. I'd rather accompany you." Once he applied the warm towel again, he finally lifted his gaze to meet hers, his eyes filled with eager anticipation. "Moreover, we have something more important to attend to today." "What is it?" Wen Qingyao asked, puzzled. "I'm taking you somewhere." He Jin-nan teased, a smile playing on his lips. An hour later, when He Jin-nan parked in front of the most upscale maternal and infant lifestyle store in the city, Wen Qingyao finally understood what he meant by something important. Gazing at the exquisite and adorable baby clothes and supplies displayed in the window, a wonderful warmth surged within her, a gentle anticipation of becoming a mother. As they stepped into the store, He Jin-nan's striking appearance and distinguished demeanor immediately captured the attention of the staff and other customers. He held Wen Qingyao closely, his gaze fixated on the tiny garments, soft plush toys, and various baby strollers, his expression filled with a blend of curiosity and warmth. Wen Qingyao could feel the stares around them. Some were awed, others envious, and there were whispers. Observing this man, who was the center of attention wherever he went, she felt an inexplicable twinge of possessiveness. She gently tugged at He Jin-nan's sleeve, retrieving a brand new deep blue mask from his suit pocket. He Jin-nan looked down, Puzzled, Wen Qingyao stood on tiptoe, carefully placing the mask straps over his ears, smoothing the metal strip above the mask to fit snugly against his high nose. With only his deep-set eyes and thick brows visible, He Jin-nen remained strikingly handsome, though less of a magnet for attention. This is much better. Wen Qingyao nodded in satisfaction, murmuring, so others 1T keep staring at you. He Jin-nen was momentarily taken aback, but soon his brows and eyes softened into a smile that radiated warmth. Leaning closer, even through the mask, Wen Qingyao could feel his warm breath and the subtle vibrations from his chuckle. So my darling gets jealous too, he teased, his voice muffled yet filled with delight. Wen Qingyao blushed, retorting, who asked jealous? I'm just worried you stand out too much and distract others while shopping. All right, whatever you say. The amusement in He Jin-nan's eyes deepened. He quickly leaned down and gently pressed a kiss at the spot where her lips were. The soft fabric and warmth of his lips sending a thrill through her. Wen Qingyao's heart skipped a beat as she playfully pushed him away. Be mindful. We're in public. He Jin-nan boldly grasped her hand, their fingers interlocked. I can kiss my own wife. What can others say? Don't be shy, baby. He guided her through the aisles, occasionally holding up a tiny outfit for her to see or inquiring with the staff about different products. The 2 months passed quietly, marked by the nuances of pregnancy and meticulous care. After their visit to the maternal and infant lifestyle store, Wen Qingyao began to experience the waves of pregnancy symptoms. The morning sickness, sudden nausea, heightened sensitivity to smells, and an unshakable fatigue rendered her already slender frame even more fragile, often casting a subtle weariness across her features. He Jin-nan observed all of this, his heart aching for her. He nearly canceled all unnecessary business engagements and social activities, handling company matters online whenever possible, and minimizing the duration of meetings he had to attend in person. His focus shifted almost entirely to Wen Qingyao, making these days more taxing for him than for her. Every morning, He Jin-nan would quietly rise, first checking Wen Qingyao's sleeping face to ensure she was comfortable before stealthily getting out of bed. At mealtime, if she had an appetite, he would smile, patiently feeding her small bites. If she turned her head away, frowning at the scent, he did not show frustration but would immediately remove the food, gently asking, what would you like instead? Something sour or something else? Should I fetch fresh soy milk from that shop on the corner? He would persist until he found something she could stomach. Whenever she experienced nausea, he was always the first to appear at her side, stabilizing her frail body without disdain, tenderly cleaning up any mess, and offering a warm towel to wipe her mouth and cheeks, followed by a prepared glass of warm water. His large hand would continuously stroke her back, silently conveying support and strength. One day, feeling helpless, he resolutely decided, my darling has endured enough. We will only try this once. At night, when she often woke from backaches or cramps, he would instantly awaken, skillfully helping her adjust her position, massaging her calves, or applying heat to relieve her discomfort until she fell asleep peacefully again. He accompanied her unwaveringly to every prenatal checkup. In the hospital's long corridors, he always held her hand tightly. He would meticulously inquire about her health and the baby's development, diligently noting any recommendations. His focused demeanor more serious than when managing multi-million contracts. His tailored suits gradually gave way to comfortable loungewear, often marked with a faint scent of cooking oil. Yet he remained unconcerned. Chapter 86. A missed appointment. Call me anytime if you miss me. Once a formidable figure in the business world, He Jin-nan had now mastered various acupressure techniques to alleviate morning sickness, could accurately determine which window in their home provided ventilation without exposing her to drafts, and was well versed in the advantages of various pregnancy pillows and belly bands. Wen Qingyao watched as dark circles formed under his eyes while he tirelessly attended to her every need with unwavering gentleness and patience. Her heart ached with tenderness. She took his hand, equally concerned for him. Husband, you're too exhausted. It pains me to see you like this. Please take a break. Let the maid handle some tasks. He Jin-nan grasped her delicate fingers in response, his eyes reflecting unwavering tenderness. Silly girl. Caring for you and the baby is my pleasure and responsibility. Seeing you in discomfort pains me more. This little fatigue is nothing, as long as you are comfortable. It's worth it for me, as long as you and the baby are well. As dawn broke, gentle light filtered through the sheer curtains, enveloping the bedroom in warmth. Wen Qingyao woke in He Jin-nan's embrace, instinctively snuggling against his warm chest. He Jin-nan had already awakened, quietly observing her. Upon noticing her eyes flutter open, he lowered his head to place a gentle kiss on her forehead, his voice tinged with the huskiness of early morning. You're awake? How do you feel today? Is anything bothering you? Wen Qingyao shook her head, her newly awoken languor rendering her akin to a little cat seeking its owner's affection. No. I slept very well. After a brief pause, recalling his schedule for the day, her expression dimmed momentarily, and her voice turned muffled. Are you leaving today? He Jin-nan felt a pang in his heart at her forlorn gaze. Drawing her closer, he tightened his embrace. Yes, I have a flight at 10 this morning. He paused, scrutinizing her expression. Are you reluctant to see me go? Wen Qingyao did not deny it. She buried her face in his chest, softly responding with a hum. Ever since her pregnancy, her reliance on him had intensified, especially as he had been attending to her every need with meticulous care. She could scarcely envision a day without him by her side. Additionally, She whispered, "You will be gone for 3 days. The day after tomorrow is my 13th week checkup. The doctor said we can do an ultrasound this time. The baby has mostly formed and we can see more clearly. I want you to come with me." Her voice carried an imperceptible hint of grievance and hope. This was their first child, and each checkup felt like unlocking a new stage. She earnestly wished for him to be present during every significant moment. Hee-jin fell silent for a few seconds, then lifted her chin, compelling her to meet his gaze. His tone was grave yet resolute. "Do not worry. I will catch the earliest flight back the day after tomorrow and ensure I am by your side. I promise to accompany you for every checkup, and I shall not be absent." "Really?" Wenqing Yao's eyes brightened instantly. "Won't that disrupt your work? Work pales in comparison to you and our baby." Hee-jin chuckled softly, leaning down to kiss her. "The meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. I will finish my necessary tasks by tomorrow night and fly back early the day after. There will be plenty of time, and I want to see just how much our baby has grown." The greatest sense of loss within her was soothed, and a smile returned to Wenqing Yao's face as she instinctively wrapped her arms around his neck. "Just make sure you don't overexert yourself. Your health is paramount." Hee-jin reveled in her dependence, gently reminding her, "During my 3 days away, you must be good at home. Sleep well and eat on time. The aunt will prepare your favorite dishes. If you feel unwell, or even just a little lonely and miss me, call or text me anytime. I'll respond immediately. Don't hold back, all right?" "I know," Wenqing Yao nodded. "I will take care of myself. And you must also rest well and not overwork." After getting out of bed, Wenqing Yao watched Hee-jin pack his bags, unable to resist trailing behind him. He obliged her, occasionally asking her to hand him small items. Eventually, the time to depart arrived. Hee-jin changed his shoes at the entrance, then turned to gently embrace Wenqing Yao, his large hand tenderly caressing her still flat abdomen. "I'm leaving. Take care of yourself." His kiss landed on the top of her head. "Safe travels. Come back early," Wenqing Yao murmured, leaning affectionately against him. After bidding farewell to Hee-jin, the vast house seemed to descend into a sudden silence and emptiness. Wenqing Yao placed her hand on her belly, silently speaking to the baby, "Baby, Daddy has gone to work. We will wait for him to return the day after tomorrow to see you." On the first day, Wenqing Yao passed the time engulfed in longing and slight discomfort. Hee-jin's messages and calls were timely, checking in on her morning, noon, and night. And in the evening, he even video called to ensure she had consumed the nourishing soup prepared by the aunt. Though monitored from afar, her heart felt sweetened. On the second day, Wenqing Yao began to anticipate their reunion and the checkup with eagerness. She retrieved a loose, comfortable dress, envisioning the expression on Hee-jin's face as he viewed the ultrasound images the following day. In the afternoon, after waking from a nap, she received a message from Hee-jin. "Everything is going smoothly. I'll wrap things up tonight and take the 7 o'clock flight in the morning, landing at 9:30. I will head directly to the hospital to meet you. Wait for me." A kiss emoji accompanied the message. Wenqing Yao smiled at the message, her lips curving upward involuntarily as she replied, "Okay, the baby and I will wait for you. Everything will go well." On the third day, the day of the checkup, Wenqing Yao awoke early, her spirits soaring with an unprecedented joy. She deliberately chose a soft apricot-colored dress, admiring herself in the mirror repeatedly. She calculated the time, knowing that Hee-jin's flight should have already landed. Her phone remained quiet, and she thought he might be on his way and unable to call. So she went to the hospital accompanied by the aunt. The hospital was bustling with people as usual. After completing the routine checks, she held the ultrasound request form. Waiting in the consultation area, she often glanced toward the entrance, hoping to see that familiar figure appear. As time ticked away, her turn was approaching. Yet Hee-jin had still not arrived. There were no messages on her phone either. "Please come to ultrasound room 3, Wenqing Yao." The announcement of her name caused her heart to sink gradually, a wave of disappointment washing over her. Unable to resist, she took out her phone and dialed Hee-jin's number. The phone rang for a long time, but went unanswered. A sense of panic surged within her. Just then, a call from Hee-jin came through, and Wenqing Yao answered. "Hello, Zhu? Sister-in-law, it's me. Have you been waiting anxiously? Big brother sent me to accompany you for the checkup. He couldn't get away due to a sudden matter." Wenqing Yao was puzzled. "Why didn't he call me?" There was a brief silence on the other end before Hee-jin replied with an effort to sound casual. "Ah, big brother probably forgot. Anyway, he is busy now. I'm in the elevator and will arrive shortly. The signal is poor here, so I'll hang up now." Before long, Wenqing Yao saw Hee-jin hurrying down the corridor, waving her hand while holding her phone. The feeling of disappointment deepened. Understanding was one thing, but the grievance of unmet expectations was another. She reminded herself not to be petulant. Unforeseen circumstances in work were beyond anyone's control. Hee-jin wrapped her arm around Wenqing Yao's shoulder, her smile somewhat strained, yet striving to maintain a light-hearted demeanor. "Let us go, sister-in-law. It's our turn now. Don't worry, I'll stay with you." Lying on the ultrasound table, the cold gel made contact with her abdomen, causing Wenqing Yao to shiver slightly. She turned her head to gaze at the fuzzy, pulsating images on the screen, her heart feeling hollow. Chapter 87. Both the baby and I miss you. Wenqing Yao's eyes remained fixated on the flickering gray shadows on the screen, her heart tightening within her chest. The doctor moved the probe gently, explaining with warmth, "Look here, the rhythmic beats signify the baby's heartbeat. It's very strong. Those twinkling dots resemble distant, yet steadfast stars in the dark." An indescribable wave of excitement swept away part of her disappointment, and her eyes glistened with moisture. "This is the baby's head, the torso. Look, that little hand seems to be moving," the doctor continued patiently. The images were vague and abstract. Yet in the eyes of a mother, they vividly outlined a vibrant little life. Wen Qingyao gazed intently, striving to etch every detail into her memory. So small, truly so small, resembling a tiny sprout, yet already possessing a human form, quietly growing while she remains unaware. The baby is quite healthy, and the developmental progress aligns with the gestational weeks. The doctor ultimately summarized, handing her a few tissues. He Jinzhu hurried to assist her into a sitting position, helping to wipe the coupling agent from her abdomen, her tone deliberately infused with excitement, attempting to elevate her spirits. "Sister-in-law, did you see it clearly? Those little arms and legs, though not distinctly visible, seem so adorable." "Yes, I saw it," Wen Qingyao softly replied, her gaze still fixated on the B ultrasound image printed by the doctor. That black and white picture marked their first true encounter. A moment brimming with immense joy yearning to be shared, yet the person she wished to share it with was absent. The lingering sense of grievance subtly surfaced, but she quickly suppressed it. She cautiously accepted the precious report, her fingers gently tracing the small, indistinct outline upon it. "Your brother must be tied up with something very important," she seemed to say to He Jinzhu, as if comforting herself, her voice soft. "It's fine. I'll take a picture first. Once he finishes, I'll send it to him right away. He will surely be very happy." She retrieved her phone, experimenting with several angles and adjusting the lighting, striving to capture the clearest image of the B ultrasound, along with the handwritten notes from the doctor indicating a strong fetal heartbeat and that the fetus was basically formed. She opened the chat with He Jinnan, selected the photos one by one, her fingertip hovering over the send button for a moment before she ultimately pressed it. Accompanying the images was a message. "This is the baby's first photo. The doctor says it is very healthy. Look, it's so small. Both the baby and I miss you. Please call me back when you're free." The message showed as sent successfully. She anticipated that perhaps in the next moment, her phone would ring, heralding his call, or at the very least, a reply filled with surprise and apology. However, the screen dimmed, remaining silent. He Jinzhu observed her forced composure, unable to conceal her disappointment, her eyes complex. She moved her lips, but ultimately only took her arm gently. "Let us go, sister-in-law. The checkup is done. We should head home. Brother will definitely contact you once he has finished." Wen Qingyao nodded, carefully placing the B ultrasound report, which carried the joys of impending motherhood mixed with a hint of regret, into the safest compartment of her bag. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, He Jinnan's assistant, Zhao He, briskly traversed the quiet hallway of the hospital's VIP floor, pushing open the door to a patient room. He Jinnan lay against the hospital bed, his face still pale from blood loss, his left arm tightly bandaged and secured against his chest, while his right hand held his phone. On the screen was the very B ultrasound photo just sent by Wen Qingyao. He gazed intently, his eyes greedily lingering on the indistinct little image, an involuntary gentle smile gracing his lips. Yet beneath that smile lay undeniable fatigue and a touch of irritation. Zhao He reported in a low voice, "President He, everything has been handled. The news has been fully contained. Madam will not find out. Miss Zhu has also been informed. Told only that you had an urgent matter to attend to." He Jinnan's gaze remained fixed on the phone screen as he acknowledged with a soft He closed his eyes briefly, and when he reopened them, the tumult of emotions swirling within had been forcibly subdued, leaving only a profound tranquility. "Zhao He." "Yes, President He." Zhao He stepped forward immediately. "Leave and stand guard outside. No one is to disturb me." "Understood," Zhao He replied, silently retreating and gently closing the door behind him, leaving an atmosphere of silence for He Jinnan. Without hesitation, He Jinnan dialed the PIN number, listening to the hold music emanating from the receiver. He instinctively adjusted his posture, attempting to make his voice sound more natural. At the Yushan mansion, all was quiet. Wen Qingyao curled up on the sofa, still clutching the B ultrasound report, her gaze unfocused as it drifted outside the window. Her bag lay carelessly beside her, the innermost compartment unzipped. Suddenly, her phone vibrated in her palm, the name flashing on the screen, causing her to sit up straight in an instant. It was He Jinnan. She quickly pressed the answer button, bringing the phone to her ear, her voice brimming with uncontainable excitement, exuberance, and a hint of tremor she herself was unaware of. "Husband." "Qingyao." The deep, familiar voice of the man came through the line, laced with a barely perceptible rasp, yet to her ears, it sounded like a heavenly melody. "Did you receive the photos? Did you see the baby? The doctor said it is very healthy, with a strong heartbeat, like little stars twinkling." She eagerly shared her joy, her words tumbling out rapidly. "I received it." He Jinnan's voice held a gentle warmth. "I saw it. Our baby is quite extraordinary, very adorable." He paused, his tone deepening with tenderness and a hint of clear regret. "I'm sorry, Qingyao. A rather tricky issue arose on this project, and I had to handle it personally, leaving you to attend the checkup alone. Wen Qingyao's immense excitement dimmed slightly with his apology. A sense of disappointment creeping in, yet more prominent was her concern for his busyness. It's all right, work is important, and Zhu Zhu is here with me. She endeavored to keep her tone light. Is everything going smoothly on your end? You sound a bit hoarse. It's fine, just a bit mentally taxing. Needing to focus for a few days. He Jin downplayed the situation, the pain radiating from his left arm causing him to furrow his brow slightly. Yet his tone remained steady. It will probably take a few more days before I can return. Please take good care of yourself, eat on time, rest well. And don't let me worry. His concern completely dissipated the remnants of grievance in Wen Qingyao's heart. I will. The baby and I will be all right. Waiting for you to come back. Wen Qingyao nodded vigorously, even though he could not see her. She chattered a bit more about the details of the checkup before reluctantly hanging up at He Jin Nan's gentle urging, setting down her phone. Wen Qingyao picked up the B ultrasound report again, her fingers delicately tracing the small outline. Her face alight with a blend of happiness and a touch of wistfulness as she murmured softly, Baby, Daddy is looking forward to seeing you too. He.S. just working hard for us. Don't you miss him? You'll be able to meet Daddy very soon. Just then, a gentle knock on the door interrupted He Jin Nan's reverie as he stared at the screen of his phone. He swiftly concealed the warmth lingering from Wen Qingyao's call, reverting to his usual composure. Come in. The door opened to reveal Ms. Dong. Elegantly attired and her hair impeccably styled, followed closely by a nanny carrying a thermos. Her gaze first fell upon her son's heavily bandaged arm and his slightly pale face, her brows instantly knitting together. An expression of both concern and reproach crossing her features. Mom, what brings you here? Chapter 88. Benevolent lies deceiving her. He Jin Nan attempted to sit up straighter, but the movement tugged at his injury, causing him to hesitate momentarily. What brings me here? How could I possibly remain at home when my son was in an accident? If it weren't for someone from Zhao He's side letting something slip, were you planning to keep this from me indefinitely? She settled into the chair beside the bed, her gaze sweeping over his left arm, which was fixed across his chest. Her tone grew somber. They say it was fatigue driving? Jin Nan, you are no longer an inexperienced youth. How could you make such a mistake? No matter how busy you are with work, is it worth more than your life? Fortunately, this time it was only a collision with a guardrail. Had it been a person, or had the situation been more severe, what would you have put us through? Her words trailed off, tinged with fear. He Jin Nan maintained his expression, his tone calm. I'm sorry, Mom. I worried you. It's just a minor injury, nothing serious. Minor injury? Dong Si-ling clearly rejected this notion. Injury to muscles and bones takes 100 days to heal. This cannot be a minor injury. What did the doctor say? A slight fracture and multiple soft tissue contusions. Rest is all that is required. He Jin Nan succinctly summarized, evidently unwilling to elaborate on his injuries. Understanding her son's character, Dong Si-ling recognized that probing further would be futile. She sighed, her gaze shifting to the phone he had tightly clutched moments before. The screen remained dark, yet she seemed to anticipate what he had been viewing. She shifted the conversation, her tone laced with a hint of inquiry. I heard from Zhu Zhu that you accompanied Qingyao to her prenatal checkup this afternoon. This was not a question but a statement, revealing that she had evidently gathered information prior to arriving at the hospital. He Jin Nan's eyelashes fluttered as he lifted his gaze toward her, not denying it. Yes. You didn't even tell me about such a significant matter. Dong Si-ling's tone carried a mixture of anger and reproach. I only learned about it through Zhu Zhu, as the eldest grandson of the He family. How long did you plan to keep this from me? It wasn't my intention to hide it from you. He Jin Nan responded effortlessly, his voice revealing no turbulence. Qingyao's pregnancy is still in the early stages. I wanted to wait until it was more stable to tell you. The results of this prenatal checkup were very good, and I intended to inform you myself in the next few days. This explanation was reasonable, and Dong Si-ling's expression softened slightly. The thought of her soon-to-be-born grandchild brought a genuine warmth and anticipation to her eyes. After a moment of silence, her well-maintained fingers gently interlaced on her lap. And when she spoke again, her tone had become much more solemn. Jin Nan, Qingyao's pregnancy is a joyous occasion. Your work is demanding. And while I can understand that missing one prenatal checkup is regrettable, it is acceptable. However, she paused, fixing her gaze firmly on her son. I believe it is inappropriate to conceal the fact that you were in a car accident from her. He Jin Nan furrowed his brows slightly, not responding immediately. Dong Si-ling continued. She is your wife and now the mother of your child. You are the closest of kin. You are injured and lying in a hospital. Yet you leave her to bear the burden of worry alone while she pretends to be cheerful for you? That is unfair to her. She has a gentle disposition and is easily affected by emotions. She needs to be especially careful during her pregnancy. Finally, He Jin Nan spoke, his voice low. Telling her would only cause her unnecessary worry and fear. What she needs now is peace and rest. I understand that you want to protect her from shock. Dong Si-ling's tone softened a little, but she remained steadfast. But have you considered how she would feel if she learned of this from another source in the future? She would feel that you do not trust her, and that kind of betrayal could hurt her more than knowing you were injured in the first place. The room fell silent for a moment. Only the faint sounds from outside the window could be heard. He-Jin-N's gaze turned towards the window, emotions swirling in his eyes. Now was not the time. He withdrew his gaze and said, "Once I recover a bit more, I will find an appropriate moment to tell her. Until then, Mom, please help me keep this a secret." His tone was resolute, imbued with the authority that comes from prolonged leadership. Even Dong Si-ling understood that there was no room for negotiation on this matter. She observed her son's determined profile, well aware that once he made a decision, it would be difficult to change. Ultimately, she could only sigh in resignation and reached out to tuck the blanket around him. "You have always been the most resolute. Fine, you handle your matters as a couple. Just do not underestimate a wife's desire to share the storms of life with her husband." She rose. "Make sure to